1. Cedric Diggory. A big boy full of reason, talent, grace, and a sense of justice. He's everything one could hope for in a Hogwarts student. Cedric raised his eyebrows at himself in the mirror. It has been 6 years since he traveled to the world of Harry Potter. He also received the admission notice to Hogwarts a few days ago and has reached the age to go to school. Although he likes the appearance and quality of this body very much, this is not a good person to be a righteous person. The world of Harry Potter. It is a wizarding world where attack and defense are not proportional. No matter how powerful the magic power is, the body is still that of an ordinary person. No matter how powerful the wizard is, if he is distracted for a moment, he may be killed by the enemy. In the original work, even Cedric, who was powerful and loved by his classmates, could not escape death. He fully embodies the unique qualities of Hufflepuff Academy and is a role model worthy of everyone's learning. He was a kind, loyal friend who believed in fair play, and his death has shocked everyone, whether they knew him or not. Please always remember him, and when you have to choose between the right path and the shortcut, don't forget what happened to an upright, kind, and brave boy. I don't know how many times he heard it in his dream, Dumbledore praising himself after his death, and then suddenly woke up, sweating profusely. This is too scary. In order to sleep peacefully, he must let the old snake that always wants to be resurrected die completely. This way you can have a good night's sleep. Fortunately, I activated the righteous system. Everything will be different. Cleared his throat. Cedric began to straighten his appearance in the mirror. He has an important meeting today. He hoped that he would perform well in that person's eyes so that he could be qualified to go to Hogwarts in advance. After a while, there was a knock at the door downstairs. Cedric's father stepped forward quickly and quickly opened the door. Standing at the door was a witch wearing square glasses, curly black hair tied into a high bun, and dark green robes. "Hello, Mrs. McGonagall, I'm sorry to bother you with such a trip despite your busy schedule." Amos Diggory quickly gave way to the door and extended an invitation to Professor McGonagall. "Hello, Mr. Diggory, Mrs. Diggory." Professor McGonagall nodded. Hogwarts has entered the admissions season, and she is now busy visiting Muggle families with children with wizarding talents. Fortunately, the other party's letter was sent early. Otherwise she would definitely not have time to make this trip. After coming to the house and taking a seat, she directly took out the letter she received and asked doubtfully, "Mr. Diggory, to be honest, although I understand your request, I don't understand what you mean. What do you mean by wishing to check into Hogwarts earlier in order to practice magic?" Professor McGonagall's eyes stared at him behind his square glasses. She wanted to confirm whether the other party was playing a trick on her. Amos Diggory waved his hand quickly, as if he was already prepared for this question. "I knew you would misunderstand, so I specially invited you to come in person so that I can explain it. It is known in a family with adult wizards, it is difficult to tell even if a young wizard practices magic, but our family is in a special situation." He glanced upstairs warily. Then he lowered his voice and said, "My child is in a special situation, so I hope to be able to move in as soon as possible." Special circumstances. Professor McGonagall immediately thought of Neville. That was another child who almost became the child of prophecy. Because of the attack, his magic talent was very poor. He almost failed to be recognized by Hogwarts admissions magic. "No, it's not because of bad talent," Amos Diggory explained awkwardly again. "On the contrary, my child's talent is very good, but..." He glanced at his wife. After receiving encouragement, he continued to explain to Professor McGonagall, "This kid in our family is going crazy." "What?" Professor McGonagall tilted her head, thinking she had heard wrongly. "What the hell kind of adjective is this? Good is good, bad is bad. How can anyone be so good as to be evil? Let's put it that way." Amos spread his hands. "Actually, he asked me to write that letter, mainly because he said that it was wrong for him to use magic at home." "I didn't say that, Father." Everyone looked up following the sound. Cedric walked slowly down the stairs. "This is a Ministry of Magic rule. It is clearly stated in the regulations prohibiting the use of magic by underage wizards that wizards under the age of 17, underage, are not allowed to use magic outside of school. The first time I use it, I will receive a warning letter from the Ministry of Magic, and the second time I will be expelled. This is the reason why I want to move into Hogwarts early. Of course, this clause is still flawed. Mainly because Trace Silk cannot specifically identify whether the magic was released by an underage wizard. This technology has not been reformed for decades. I will definitely find ways to improve it in the future. Cedric came to Professor McGonagall. Opposite him, the Vice Principal of Hogwarts, bowed slightly to show courtesy. Very sorry for interrupting you. But since I started to activate my magic power at the age of 5, I have been too curious about spells, so I can only apply to you. I hope you can understand how I feel. After doing all this, the system prompt appeared again in Cedric's ear. Science popularization and maintenance of magic regulations will reward 100 experience points. I see. Professor McGonagall nodded. She suddenly understood what it meant to be evil. Glancing at Cedric, who was clean and tidy, Professor McGonagall was very satisfied with his appearance. She likes outstanding students the most. Children who have just entered school. It is extremely rare to have a performance like his. Even though many adult wizards have magic, they still make a mess all over themselves. She composed herself and said, "Then, regarding your application for early admission to Hogwarts, I will now make a simple inquiry to you." Professor McGonagall never expected that. The next question and answer will shock her so much. 2. Okay, Cedric nodded. He is full of confidence in the test. Over the years, because of the existence of the system, he has added a lot to himself. And with his mature adult mind. Among children of the same age, it is impossible for anyone to be more self-disciplined than him. Before answering the question, he also quickly opened the panel and added the 100 experience points he just got to the magic value. Name, Cedric. Bloodline, Wizard Bloodline. Magic power, 32 points, not popular, before 50 points, every 100 experience points can increase by 1 point. Comprehensive value, 15 points. Third-rate masters have 80 points, second-rate masters have 85 points, first-rate masters have 90 points, super masters have 95 points, the big three have 99 points, and god-level masters have 100 points. Talent list, the levels from high to low are SSSSSSABCDE. SS level talent, infectious power. S level talent, casting spells without a wand. A level talents, transfiguration, charms, quidditch, herbs, potions, fighting, white magic, defense. B level talents, occlumency, black magic, attack, pet affinity, language. C level talent, prophecy. Note, talents can only be increased with talent points or through self-cultivation. Magic spells, cleaning curse LV3, 28/300, repairing curse LV2, 149/200, flying curse LV1, 16/100. Available experience points, 0 points. Available talent points, 0 points. It can be seen from this panel that Cedric's template is still very powerful, and he has A-level talents in many abilities. The low rating is mainly due to the small number of spells and their low level. You know, during the Goblet of Fire period, he was also chosen to represent Hogwarts. In other words, the Goblet of Fire at that time considered him to be the most powerful student in Hogwarts. Of course, Cedric is stronger now than before. All these years of hard work. He increased his magic power from 10 points to 32 points, and also upgraded his wandless spell casting, which was originally an A-level talent, to S-level. Yes, in addition to adding points, these values can also be increased by practicing yourself. This is because of his young age. The reason why I can only face my parents every day. After entering Hogwarts and facing more people, the efficiency of gaining experience will increase a lot. After all, there are too many things that are in line with the right path. By the way, you just talked about modifying magic. Zongxi's magic is very profound, and it can't be improved casually. Professor McGonagall's expression was serious. She doesn't like little wizards who talk about trains. So her first sentence was to remind Cedric not to be too ambitious. Of course, this will be a long-term goal, and I don't even know whether I will succeed, but that still doesn't stop me from setting it as a goal and working hard for it. Cedric shrugged. After all, the goal is to be difficult, right? Hear his answer. Professor McGonagall's eyes lit up. Neither humble nor arrogant, clear and logical, with logical thinking that even adults may not have. What a great experience! Of course, this must not be empty talk. Suppress psychological joy. Professor McGonagall continued to ask quietly, so you should like to study spells very much. Can you know your current progress? When asked about this, she noticed that Cedric was visibly nervous. In fact, this is a trap question, because Cedric said before that little wizards are not allowed to use wands outside of school. So if he says he is proficient, then it proves that everything before is just his lie. Feel sorry. Cedric shook his head dejectedly, because I can't use a wand, I can only practice some simple magic that doesn't require a wand to make up for my own hobby of magic. He raised his hand as he spoke. The suitcase is flying. With the casting of the flying spell, the suitcase originally located in the room on the second floor flew straight up. It flew down the stairs like a swallow returning to the forest, and delivered the handrail into Cedric's hand. Professor McGonagall was surprised and delighted. Surprised? This flying spell is not simple, and it is not even a spell that junior wizard students will learn. And Cedric performed it so skillfully. The suitcase flew downstairs without any collision, which was enough to show that he had truly mastered this spell. What shocked her even more? Professor McGonagall noticed that Cedric did not reach for the wand that was hidden in his clothes. That is to say, he casts spells without a wand. This concept is dozens of times more difficult than the flying curse. There are many wizards who never master this skill in their lifetime. Then, Cedric demonstrated 2 more spells. Cleaned up and as good as restored. He has become more proficient in these 2, and can complete the spell almost in the blink of an eye. Very good, really very good. The stern Professor McGonagall rarely praised a young wizard to his face. However, after seeing his performance, I couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. This kid is really talented. This made her couldn't help but want to know more about him, so, besides modifying the trace silk, do you have any other pursuits? The Diggory couple beside them became nervous instantly. The 2 of them leaned together, clasping their hands and fingers, looking dryly at their child Cedric with pursed lips and wide eyes. Don't say that. Certainly. Cedric suddenly stood up. There was light in his eyes, and he shouted loudly, actually, my first wish is to break the spell on the mysterious man's name so that everyone can call out his name openly. To eliminate the dark wizard, we must start by burying the mysterious man. It turns out to be this. Mr. and Mrs. Diggory closed their eyes with a look of despair. They could only pray silently in their hearts, hoping that Professor Mike would not be frightened by Cedric's remarks. This child? Actually pointing the sword at the mysterious man? Professor Mike stood up with a huff. 3. Oh my God, how dare you! Professor McGonagall's chest rose and fell rapidly. The Diggory couple, who had already expected this, immediately took action. The lady stepped forward to comfort her, and her husband immediately brought a cup of hot tea with a wave of his magic wand. Mr. Diggory also glared at Cedric and said angrily, didn't I ask you to say something light-hearted first? Didn't I tell Zongxi first? Cedric argued unconvincingly, we should no longer be afraid of the mysterious man. If his name hadn't been spelled by the Death Eaters, I would have made up a song about his failure. Not only do I want to read it, I also want to sing it. If you are afraid of even saying his name, how can you stand in front of him, face him, and destroy him? Cedric waved his little arms. Even the meticulous hairstyle on his head trembled slightly as his body swayed. Professor McGonagall, a former member of the Order of the Phoenix. He also seemed to recall those years when he resisted Voldemort, was passionate and sacrificed his life. Mr. and Mrs. Diggory clasped their fingers again. Here we go again. Here we go again. This guy's magic speech. Every time I heard him say this, I would feel my heart boiling, and then I would be moved by what he said. As a result, there was a commotion at home. Parents are not like parents, and children are not like children. Isn't this really a curse? Feel sorry. Professor Mike took off his eyes and took advantage of the action of wiping the lenses to calm down his mood. After some quick thinking, she made a decision quickly, very nice attitude. Cedric, I am willing to be your guarantor and let you move into Hogwarts early. Promise Cedric. Not just because of his talent, but also because of his ambition. Taking him back to Hogwarts and letting Dumbledore observe him is the safest course of action. After gathering her emotions, Professor McGonagall quickly returned to her usual stern tone, whenever you are ready, just send me a message. Now you can. Cedric picked up the suitcase in his hand, although I don't know whether you will agree to my application, I know you are busy, so I will prepare in advance. If I can help you save a little time, that would be great. Also, don't look at me when I'm young. I can already live independently in my daily life." Mr. and Mrs. Diggory held their breath. He was afraid that the sound of his breathing might interfere with Professor McGonagall's judgment. "You're very thoughtful." Professor McGonagall couldn't help but praise again. She fell in love with such an outstanding child more and more. If all the young wizards in the future can be like him, then better days for the wizarding world are not far away. However, this matter must also take into account the mood of the other party's parents. She turned her attention to the Diggory couple. "If you can rest assured." "Absolutely rest assured. Hogwarts is our alma mater, and we absolutely believe in the character and strength of Principal Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall. My child is following you, and I feel relieved. It's the best thing you can agree to." Mr. and Mrs. Diggory were full of praises and witty remarks. In just 3 seconds, they sang and finished singing the compliments they had planned for a long time. "So. Although I noticed something strange." But Professor Mike really couldn't find any reason to refuse. She pulled out her wand and tapped it towards the suitcase in Cedric's hand. "Wait until the suitcase floats." Professor McGonagall stretched out his hand towards Cedric. "Let's go to Hogwarts. This is so cool." Cedric crossed the table and came to the other side, carefully placing his hand into Professor Mike's palm. To him, "The beautiful days are finally coming when I can go to Hogwarts." He raised his head and said excitedly towards the tall Professor McGonagall, "Professor, I will never forget this day." Finished. He said goodbye to his parents on the other side, then, "Father and Mother, I will leave first. I will miss you." "Well." Mrs. Diggory covered her mouth and turned to lie on her husband's shoulder. Only in this way she was able to prevent her smile from being seen by Professor McGonagall and Cedric. "Help me quickly." Mr. Diggory, who could hardly hold back his words, hurriedly whispered in Madame's ear. To prevent her husband from revealing his secret, Mrs. Diggory pinched a small piece of flesh on her husband's back and twisted it. The sourness came. Mr. Diggory suddenly had tears in his eyes. "Go on, kid, your mother and I will take care of ourselves." What a touching family bond. Professor McGonagall made no secret of his envy of the Diggory family. She rubbed her eyes. "Don't worry, I will give you a healthier Cedric during the summer vacation." Of course, of course." Mr. Diggory kept nodding his head, but didn't dare to say anything. "Then let's go." Professor McGonagall took Cedric and left the house. After walking out of the house, Cedric felt a twisting sensation running down Professor Mike's arm. Then the two of them flashed. Then he appeared in a very quaint wizard town. Cedric noticed that there was a shop called the Three Broomsticks Bar nearby, and he immediately reacted. "This is Hogsmeade. Yes, let's walk into Hogwarts next. I will tell you some basic precautions on the way." "Okay, Professor McGonagall." Cedric was very excited. "After coming to the world of Harry Potter for so many years, I finally arrived at Hogwarts. The better days are finally coming." Mr. and Mrs. Diggory hugged each other and cried with joy. The child finally left home. He can finally stop harming them. Mrs. Diggory took off the hair accessories on her head, shook off her elegant and delicate hairstyle, and walked upstairs. "I'm going to go back to sleep right now. I will be in trouble with anyone who doesn't let me sleep in from now on." "Me too." Mr. Diggory waved his wand. Beer and side dishes all flew to the coffee table on the sofa. "I must watch a game of Quidditch on the sofa today." He threw his body into the soft sofa, breathed a long sigh of relief, and raised the bottle high to pay tribute to his son's next stop. "Good luck, Hogwarts." 4. Hogwarts. Founded around 990 AD, it is one of the 11 known magic schools in the world and is considered one of the best magic institutions in the wizarding world. Hogwarts is inevitably a little quiet during the summer vacation. But with the arrival of Cedric, this silence was soon broken. Early morning. Cedric ran out of the common room, greeting everyone he met along the way. He encountered it first. It was Argus Filch, the administrator. "Hello, Mr. Filch, I'm Cedric who checked in early. If you need me to do anything, you can always call me. I know you, I just hope you can abide by the school rules." Filch had bulging eyes like fish bubbles and was holding his cat named Lady Nollies. "Of course, I have read Hogwarts, a school history thoroughly. I will strictly abide by the school rules and I will never let you worry about it." Cedric finished. A system prompt rang in my ears. Declaration: I advocate abiding by school rules and gaining 100 experience points. His smile became more obvious. As long as you can let him gain experience, no matter whether you are a deadeye or not, you are his good friend. Got a reward. There was naturally a bit more sincerity in his smile. Looking at the sunny and cheerful boy Cedric, even the lifeless Filch was stunned. Been at Hogwarts for so long. This was the first time he felt unreserved kindness from the young wizard. Children don't lie. With Filch's terrifying tower keeper appearance, it was almost impossible for the new kids to like him. And after the children were caught by him once or twice, their dislike of him skyrocketed. Over time, he also completely became the opposite of the little wizards. How long has it been since he saw such sincere eyes? Okay then. Filch suddenly felt that under Cedric's pure eyes, he felt a little guilty. It was like a dark creature was suddenly released into the sunlight. It feels like being stung by the sun. It was really wrong of me to talk to him so coldly just now. Filch unconsciously changed his attitude. In the future, if you need anything, just come to me. Not many people are more familiar with the school's affairs than me. Okay, bye, Mr. Filch. Cedric finished his experience points and left. According to his experience, the same person will not gain experience points twice for the same reason in one day. Goodbye. Filch stared blankly at Cedric's back until he disappeared. When turning around to leave, somehow, his steps felt a lot easier. Run around the corner. Cedric suddenly felt a chill approaching. Look up. Isn't this Professor Snape, Hogwarts' pure love god of war and double agent? When I read the original novel, I still hated him at first. Only when you learn more about the truth later will you realize how touching his story is. Close your eyes. Snape let out a low drink, and the cold aura accompanying him suddenly expanded outwards. He is a sensitive and delicate person, otherwise he wouldn't be able to work as an undercover agent. The complicated look in Cedric's eyes when he saw him was immediately noticed by him. Sorry, Professor Snape. Cedric quickly adjusted and introduced himself generously. Hello, Professor, I'm Cedric who checked in early. I know you are good at defense against the dark arts, potions, charms, and occlumency. I look forward to getting your advice. Snape glanced silently up and down Cedric. After not noticing any bad feeling, he said very proudly, then you must not be the kind of fool I often encounter. I feel like I'm not stupid. Besides, I've already studied potions in the first grade, including thousands of magical herbs and mushrooms. Seeing Cedric's confident look, Snape asked directly, what will be the finished product if narcissus root powder is added to mugwort infusion? You will get the water of life and death, which is a powerful sleeping pill. Where can I find Bezoar? Some kind of solidity in the cow's stomach. 2 questions later, Snape suddenly raised the difficulty level. Tell me the recipe for the healing potion. 2 wormwood plants, 10 grams of unicorn tail hair, and 10 grams of white grass. Cedric was calm and collected. Can't use wand though. But before coming to Hogwarts, he started to study on his own very early. It can be said that no problem within the 3rd grade could trouble him. Very good. Snape nodded with satisfaction. These 2 questions are no longer within the scope of thousands of magical herbs and mushrooms, but are within the more difficult textbook magic potions and potions. Able to answer in seconds. Obviously the effect of Cedric's self-study is very solid. In this case, his self-report just now contained elements of self-effacement. He was smart but self-effacing. This was a student that Snape liked very much. You can come to me if you have any questions in the future, but remember, don't ask me stupid questions. Congratulations on passing Professor Snape's test and gaining 1000 experience points. Sure enough, the key person has a lot of experience. The reward was actually 10 times that of others, and Cedric suddenly felt happy. Question this time. It's almost half as much as what I used to paint during those years at home. There was no reward triggered at Professor McGonagall's place before, probably because I had applied for early check-in. But now it is purely students asking teachers for advice. This is what students should do. Only behaviors that are not mixed with other interests or purposes can trigger rewards. Cedric seems to understand how the system works better. Coupled with the bumper harvest he had just obtained, his mood suddenly became a little better. Cedric patted his chest confidently. Don't worry, Professor Snape, I will make you proud. Confidence is pretty good. Snape felt like he was hit by a warm smile. something he had never felt before when he was a student. The corners of his mouth also curved unconsciously. Although this did not change the essence of his cold ancient well aura, it seemed like sunlight was shining into the well at this moment. Although it did not dispel the cold. After all, it brought more light and became different. Just one day. All the professors at Hogwarts know that there is a sunny and cheerful boy named Cedric in the castle. Dumbledore was quickly alerted. 5. Ha ha ha. You did a great job, Cedric. This thing called boxing is really good for exercising, and it looks very exciting. Hagrid's hearty laughter surrounded the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Of course, I have been training for a long time, and this thing can improve my reaction ability. A duel between wizards is very about reaction speed. Cedric quickly swayed his body from side to side, and punched left and right hooks quickly. Every punch hit the target Hagrid made for him. At the same time, this kind of practice can even help me subdue enemies that are close at hand when I lose my wand, at the same time. In the principal's office. Professors Dumbledore and McGonagall were also in the crystal ball, observing Cedric chatting with Hagrid. A long time. Only then did Dumbledore look away, put his hands together on the table, tilted his head and praised, "What a novel theory." He looked at the human-shaped target that was being swayed left and right by Cedric, and his eyes slightly narrowed behind his crescent-shaped glasses. "I feel like I can't withstand such a punch." Yes, he always has some very special ideas. Although Professor McGonagall has been running outside these days. But she would basically go back to Hogwarts in the evening, have dinner with Cedric, and chat. 2 days down. Many of the other party's remarks made her think deeply and fearfully. For example, how to reform the Ministry of Magic so that it can truly become an organization that serves the wizarding people. Such as establishing shared values. I hope wizards can abide by principles such as freedom and equality. All in all. While Professor McGonagall felt happy, he also couldn't help but feel deeply worried. Such an ambitious goal. Will it completely crush the little wizard? You must know that many times, once disappointment accumulates too much, people will easily start to go to extremes. And each of Cedric's goals is terrifyingly grand. Principal, I'm actually worried about him. Professor McGonagall expressed his concerns. Dumbledore was silent for a long time, and then slowly said, "Guide the little wizard correctly, this is exactly what we should do." Filch, Hagrid, Snape, and even Minerva yourself all recognized this sunny and cheerful boy in just 2 days. Such a situation reminds me of a certain close friend. Professor McGonagall was shocked. Even his usual serious face could not be maintained. You mean Grindelwald? This is a being far more terrifying than Voldemort. Grindelwald's most powerful ability, apart from his magical attainments comparable to Dumbledore's. There is also a strong charisma. He once used his sharp tongue to deceive all the prisoners in America's magic prison. He also instigated the rebellion of Oro Abernethy and the sheep-eating beast Antonio to help him escape from prison. At Père Lachaise Cemetery. Grindelwald even used a speech to easily persuade hundreds of wizards to agree with his ideas, including many Aurors who were originally hunting him. Such as Queenie Goldstein, Credence Barebone. These people had severely opposed him before. Is this analogy too exaggerated? In Professor McGonagall's mind, Cedric cannot be compared with Grindelwald in any case. Indeed, this metaphor is a bit extreme. Dumbledore also had to admit that such an accusation was too harsh. But it's not his fault. His life is like walking on thin ice. His best friend Grindelwald and his beloved disciple Tom have all become disasters in this world. Tom will end with Harry, it's fate. However, we also need to take precautions and make sure there is no second Grindelwald. The office fell silent for a moment. Dumbledore didn't transfer long, he quickly came out of his memories. However, we can also observe him from many angles. Dumbledore picked up the quill on the table, quickly wrote a letter, and woke up Fawkes who was standing on the shelf next to him. "Give it to Mr. Ollivander for me, I have something to ask him." McGonagall understands. Dumbledore must have wanted to consult Cedric's wand. The wand chooses the wizard. Basically, the wand held by a wizard can reflect the wizard's true intentions. And one more thing. After Dumbledore sent the letter, he turned his attention to Professor McGonagall. "I hope you can teach him the patronus charm." "I see." Professor McGonagall nodded. The patronus charm is also a magic that can test the wizard's character. Magic is a wonderful existence. Each wizard has his own preferred magic, and the distinction between black and white wizards comes from this. For example, the blue-black flames created by Grindelwald can ignite the European continent, but they may not turn into dewy roses. This is also one of the magic that proves the true nature of the wizard. Of course, this is not ironclad proof. For example, Grindelwald's patron saint is the phoenix. But it can still be used for reference. Because this goes straight to the wizard's true heart. Snape's patroness was a doe like Lily for the first half of his life, and later turned into a doe when he was protecting Harry. Soon, the letter Dumbledore sent was answered. He handed the envelope to McGonagall, who opened it and began to read the reply. "Good day, great Mr. Dumbledore. I remember the Cedric you asked about very clearly. He was a child with special qualities. His arrival seemed to warm my heart. As for his wand, that's a very ancient wand. 6. Because there are souls from other worlds. Cedric's wand in this life is also different from his previous life. The overall material remains basically unchanged. What has changed is the length of the wand, and the material used for the core. His wand is 14½ inches long, ash, with a core of unicorn tail hair. But this tail hair is very special." Professor McGonagall continued. "When my father was collecting tail hair, he didn't immediately notice that this unicorn was already the mother of 3 children. It's hard enough for a unicorn to get pregnant. This hair is taken from the tail hair of a unicorn mother who had 3 babies, and the energy contained in it is huge. So my father had to increase the size of the wand to be able to accommodate the tail hair. However, it was precisely because it was too powerful that no wizard could get its recognition for a long time. Until Cedric arrives. I believe he will be a great white wizard. Sincerely, Ollivander, I salute you." McGonagall returned the envelope to Dumbledore. After Dumbledore scanned it again, his expression softened a lot. Ash is a tree that symbolizes knowledge, purity, and truth, and is said to repel venomous snakes and heal snake bites. The wand is made of ashwood and has a very stubborn character. They will always stick to their true master. If they are given to others, they will lose some of their power and skills. It's even called a unicorn tree. It is a material that is very suitable for unicorn tail hair. Especially this wand, 1 large and 3 small ones contain magic power. Overall, this and the wand can basically represent that Cedric is an extremely pure, innocent, and powerful wizard. What a wonderful son of the powerful white wizard. Dumbledore sighed, but didn't pay much attention. After all, he has seen many good seedlings. Most of them ended up being forgotten by everyone, unable to make any real reforms to the magic world, and the same was true for Cedric. So, we have to teach him well. This doesn't leave us much time. 2 more years. Harry is coming back. In Dumbledore's eyes, Harry's importance was unmatched by anyone else. Because he was the only option to end Voldemort. No one can replace it. At that time, we need to spend all our energy on training Harry and fighting Voldemort, especially the latter. Cedric is not the decisive factor. I see. Professor McGonagall left the principal's office. When passing by the corridor, she stopped by the window and once again cast her gaze at the 2 people having a heated discussion outside Hagrid's cabin. Maybe he was smiling too much. Hagrid, who was more than 3 meters tall, leaned back and fell from the rocking chair. Cedric stood up immediately. He pulled Hagrid up from the ground, and then cleaned up all the stains on Hagrid's body. See his powerful magic. Hagrid was shocked. He raised his big hand in surprise and high-fived Cedric. This was the warmest and kindest child McGonagall had ever seen. She could not imagine how sad she would be if such a child who could bring people happiness one day turned into the 3rd big devil. Cedric, I will teach you well. Even if it's only 2 years. Cedric looked up thoughtfully. But he didn't see anything except the tall Hogwarts. What's wrong? Hagrid asked, sitting back in the rocking chair. It's okay, it's just time for magic practice. Cedric took out the standard spell, Elementary he brought from his backpack, written by Miranda Gorshak. 16 common spells included. Fire-making curse, levitating curse, leg-locking curse, repairing curse, softening curse, cutting curse, unlocking curse, dance curse, swelling curse, freezing curse, universal breaking curse, forgetting curse, tickling curse, flying curse, expulsion curse, existence curse. But not all must be learned. Each grade only needs to learn 4, and the difficulty gradually increases. The design is very considerate. Cedric also decided to start learning the most basic spells. This was his main purpose for checking into Hogwarts early. He compressed the 6 hours of boxing training every day to 2 hours just to leave time to practice the magic spell. "Can you do me a favor?" Cedric handed the book to Hagrid. "Can you read the pronunciation for me? There are some rhythms that I don't quite understand yet." "Me? Is it me?" Hagrid's huge body suddenly became tense. His big plate-like hands rubbed his pants vigorously, and then he carefully held the standard spell, elementary, in his palm. Staring at the long-lost book, he looked extremely cautious. "I once studied here, and this is a very rigorous course." "Yes, that's why I asked you to teach me the correct pronunciation." Cedric blinked at Hagrid. "The magic spell is very weird. Not only does it need to be matched with gestures, but it even has a weird accent. Of course, the more skilled you are, the more you can omit it." Voldemort was going to start causing trouble in 2 years, and Cedric made a plan for himself of establishing a foothold in 2 years and crushing him in 5 years. Right at that event. Completely wipe out that old snake's conspiracy. First step. That is to learn all the basic magic in the first year. Other subjects. It is necessary to complete the content that the first-year students originally studied within 3 months. There is only leapfrog learning. Only then can he attract the attention of the professors and let them teach him more advanced magic in advance. As for those rote memorization content, he started self-study a year ago and has already recited it by heart. "Can I?" Hagrid became more and more reserved. He had never thought that someone would ask him to teach magic, but the first-grade spells were indeed very simple. "Isn't this bad?" Hagrid is still scared. Although he was very happy living in Hogwarts over the years. In fact, he didn't have a single real friend. It wasn't until Cedric's arrival that he felt like he had a good friend who he could talk to about everything. This made up for his missing childhood. But a shadow always hangs over Hagrid. Now he doesn't even dare to call Cedric his friend, for fear that the other party will think he is weird. After all, the age difference between the two is too big. "Of course, we are friends." Cedric stood on tiptoe and whispered in Hagrid's ear, "You teach me now, and when I get to a higher grade, I will teach you in turn." Ding! Hagrid was moved to success. You get bonus talent points +1, Hagrid character template card. 7. Cedric didn't have time to check the reward. Hagrid over there sobbed, and actually covered his face and started sobbing. "Woo! You are such a good man, Cedric, and you want to be my friend. I thought that with such a big age difference between us and I was just a gamekeeper, you would look down on me, woohoo." Hagrid pulled out his handkerchief. "The sound of blowing your nose is like blowing a trumpet. Of course, we have been friends forever. It is a friendship that can transcend the age gap." Cedric comforted him hurriedly. This is still a child. He feels that he and Hagrid are the complete opposite. Although he has the appearance of a child, he already has the firm mind of an adult. Hagrid is tall though. But in fact, he is very gentle and sensitive at heart. Even though he was covering his face with his right hand and crying, his left hand still held Cedric's standard spell, elementary, firmly in the palm of his hand without moving at all. A child with a sensitive heart. You will always consider the other person's feelings more, and the sadness will go away as quickly as it comes. A word from Cedric. Immediately, Hagrid's tall voice began to tremble again. "Woo, ha, ha ha ha. Friendship transcends age, I like this sentence so much." Hagrid laughed for a while, completely relieved. He quickly wiped his palms clean, then leaned down and solemnly stretched out his little finger. "Then we have an agreement, my friend." "Good friend." Cedric and Hagrid finished pulling the hook, and then officially started learning. Well, first, the ignition spell. Hagrid's voice is still so loud. It was so loud that even if you were standing at the gate of Hogwarts, you could still faintly hear his voice. There was a figure just leaning against the door. He stared at the two of them blankly for a long, long time. The other side. Faced with these elementary spells, Cedric learned very quickly. Just 2 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. He has successfully added 2 spells to his spell list, fire-making spell LV1, 40/100. Floating spell LV1, 35/100. Hagrid not only taught earnestly, but also thoughtfully prepared 5 fires. Every time Cedric lit one, he could move to the next one to continue practicing. And he was bent over. He took the trouble to extinguish the fires he lit one by one so that he could maintain the practice speed more quickly. This moved Cedric very much. Night falls. Cedric bid farewell to Hagrid. "Thank you very much, my friend, but I need to dine with Professor McGonagall tonight. I'll come again tomorrow. I'll bring you a classic delicacy from my hometown." As a fan of the original novel, he learned the ropes of the kitchen early on. Thanks to Hagrid, he decided to ask the house elves to prepare an oriental dish to reward Hagrid tomorrow. "See you tomorrow, my friend. There is still a month left for summer vacation. I'm looking forward to your hometown delicacies." Hagrid reluctantly bid farewell to Cedric. He watched him leave until the other party entered the castle, and then he took Yaya to start patrolling the forest every day. Cedric also opened the spell book on his way back. By looking at the book, he opened the task template card prompted by the system. Template card: Rubius Hagrid talent, half-giant bloodline, magic resistance increased to 30, strength increased to 3, constitution increased to 2, lifespan increased by 100 years, appearance does not undergo additional changes. Explanation: the average strength, agility, constitution, and magic resistance attributes of an ordinary adult male wizard are all 1. Life wish list: the first item, pass the OWL, ordinary wizard level examination, and become a qualified wizard. Completing this wish list will increase the bonus of this template card by 50%. Item 2, get married. Completing this wish list will prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. Note: the template card slot is initially 1 and can be increased to 2 at most. Your template card slot has been opened. Cedric cheered in his heart. This template card is so powerful. The improvement in magic resistance at least greatly increases the probability of surviving a sneak attack. Increase in strength and fitness. It can give him a physical fitness comparable to that of a monster. With a punch of 3 points of strength, not to mention knocking you unconscious, the sequelae will be felt. With 2 points of constitution, even ordinary blows can't knock him down. This is a comprehensive improvement of physical fitness, including resistance to toxins and drugs. In fact, it can also improve magic resistance and so on. Not to mention it has a lifespan of 100 years. This is an ability that many people dream of. As long as the wizard profession is strong enough, it can become stronger with age. Just look at Dumbledore. This new feature of the system is simply too powerful. It seems like this. Several professors in the school, and even Dumbledore, are all mobile treasure troves. And just complete their bucket list. Not only can bonuses be enhanced, but the number of template card slots can even be ignored. Don't say anything else. If he took down the templates of all the professors at Hogwarts, his data would definitely be incredible. Install 7 or 8 template cards, and you should salute Merlin, the god of Dharma, when he comes. It's so exciting. But everyone's life aspirations are not simple. Both of Hagrid's difficulties are very high. After passing the OWL, ordinary wizarding level examination, you must first learn this knowledge yourself before you can teach him. Secondly, Hagrid's learning ability is also very poor. I don't know how long it will take him to pass the exam. The second one is even harder. Originally, in the Goblet of Fire plot, Hagrid met his true love, Madame Maxime. But they didn't end up together. They once danced together at the Yule Ball, but they quarreled over the words half-giant. Although they reconciled later when they went to persuade the giant together. But in the end Hagrid ended up living in his cabin. It means they have other problems. This is really a headache. Cedric shut down the system and put away his books, but was startled by the figure in front of him. 8. Meow. Norris was frightened. It jumped out of Filch's arms and ran towards the interior of the castle. However, Filch did not move, but apologized to Cedric with a hint of envy. "I saw you coming back from Hagrid, but what seems to be bothering you?" "Trouble." Cedric knows. The expression on my face when I was checking my wish list just now was all seen by the other party. It seems that the other party has been watching here for a long time? Could it be that he was waiting for me specifically? Looking at Filch trying hard to smile, Cedric suddenly understood. It seemed that my equal treatment of him in the past few days had played a big role. Think back again to the reward that moved Hagrid. Cedric quickly changed what he originally wanted to say. "Yes, I did encounter a little problem. Let's walk as we go, Mr. Filch." "Okay." The two walked side by side towards the Great Hall of Hogwarts. "We had a lot of fun practicing magic, but before we left, I encountered a few bad things. Really? Tell me. The first one is Peeves. I originally wanted to ask Hagrid if there is any magic that can limit it. Unfortunately, he doesn't know. Cedric said with great regret, I see it being naughty all day long. It must have caused a lot of trouble for you, Mr. Filch, right? Without waiting for Filch to answer, Cedric continued, I will study hard in the future. When the time comes, I must find the magic spell to restrain Peeves so that he will never dare to cause trouble to you again. Oh, that's it. Filch's voice was a little weak. After listening to Cedric's words, a warmth rolled back and forth in his chest. Just like an iron. He spent the afternoon leaning against the door, looking at the dark side of Hagrid and Cedric having so much fun with each other. The dark side he had felt was smoothed over, and he no longer felt any grievance or envy. A smile suddenly appeared on his face. I didn't expect you to still be thinking about me. Of course, we are friends. Cedric then said another important point, then I also heard that there are actually squibs in this world. Filch stiffened. Everyone stopped in place, leaving Cedric alone to move forward. But Cedric didn't seem to see it. I will definitely research the corresponding magic potion in the future to solve their problems, but it's a pity that I don't know such friends. When it is developed, I don't know who to try it with. What a worry. There are too many unfair things in this world. Filch froze on the spot. It wasn't until he heard the words "it's too difficult and too unfair" that he suddenly came back to his senses. He hurried after Cedric. He suppressed the expression on his face and said calmly with a trembling voice, if you really need it, I have a friend. Real? Cedric stopped suddenly. That's great, thank you Mr. Filch. Filch waved his hand quickly. This is nothing, I'm just introducing you and. No, I want to thank you for believing in me. Cedric said quickly, a little wizard who hasn't even started first grade, have already said a lot of big things without shame, but you are all willing to believe me. Thank you so much. Ewan, is this the reason? Filch felt extremely weird. Yeah, why do I believe him so much? His steps paused again. Filch, who was half a step behind, stared at the back of Cedric, who was unwavering and striding forward, feeling a little lost. I really can't understand it. Although the sunny aura of the other party that attracts him has not changed. But why would I trust him unconditionally? There is always a strange understanding in psychology that he will definitely do what he says. Is this a curse? Filch shook his head. What were you thinking? How could a little wizard who hadn't entered school yet be able to cast a spell that affected other people's minds? Although I emphasized it to myself again. Cedric is just a young wizard who has not yet begun to learn. But when the words come out. But his appearance completely changed. I believe in you, I believe you will one day overcome the problems of this century. Squib. It is indeed not an exaggeration to call it the problem of the century. Then let's make an agreement, take down Peeves first, and then take down the squib. Cedric stood on the stairs and turned around, reaching out his hand to say goodbye to Filch with a serious look on his face. This time in the past. He would continue up to Professor McGonagall's office for meals. And Filch will also go back to his room. Well, see you tomorrow, Mr. Filch. I hope to see you every day, Cedric. Filch solemnly held Cedric's hand. Ding, I moved Filch successfully. You get bonus talent points +1, Filch character template card. Sure enough, it's done. Knowing the plot of the original work, it's really easy to handle them. But don't worry. I will study carefully how to deal with Peeves and the squibs, so I won't be cheating you. After thinking about it in your mind, Ling Yun returned to Professor McGonagall's room. He soon discovered that Professor McGonagall seemed to be unable to speak tonight. 9. I heard you've adapted well recently. Professor McGonagall finally spoke. Yes, I met Professor Snape, Mr. Hagrid and Mr. Filch. They are all very kind. Cedric's words once again made McGonagall sigh. If these three people were all amiable, then Peeves would be considered enthusiastic. As long as you adapt well. I haven't been so busy recently. If there is anything you want to learn, I can spare some time. Such a great opportunity. Of course Cedric wouldn't miss it. He raised his hand and let Emery Switch's Elementary Transformation Guide fly into his hand. He touched the simple cover of this book with great interest. I know this spell is difficult, so I just watched it, but I haven't started practicing it yet. Professor McGonagall noticed something else. You are getting better and better at the flying spell. Haha, maybe. In fact, Cedric hasn't been practicing the flying curse much recently. However, after getting Snape's 1000 experience points, his magic power has been increased from 32 points to 42 points. An increase of nearly 1/3. The higher his magic power, the easier he becomes at casting various spells. This kind of numerical value that can comprehensively improve his strength is his top priority now. He plans to increase it to 50 points first. 50 points will definitely be a key node, and there should be some magical changes. Cedric is looking forward to it. It is true that the transformation spell must be done step by step. You must not directly transform into a person. However, there is another spell that is also very interesting. Are you interested? Professor McGonagall naturally introduced the Patronus Charm. Patronus Charm? Cedric heard this spell and immediately realized that this might be Dumbledore's test. After all, the Patronus Charm can directly reflect the heart. It seemed that he had to gain Snape's favor as soon as possible and learn his signature occlumency. But on his face, he was naturally very happy. This is also an advanced spell, right? I'm happy to learn it. It's not entirely a lie. This spell is very useful against dark creatures, and is almost half of its signature skill. And the patron saint has many magical functions. Even more coincidental. Filch's template just now really added this. Template card, Argus Filch talent, beloved Lolas, pet affinity talent upgraded to A level. Life wish list, number 1, become a true wizard. By completing this wish list, you can upgrade your pet affinity talent to S level. Item 2, be respected by students. Completing this wish list will prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. Filch's wish list really made Cedric change his mind a little bit. He thought Filch would have at least one wish list, which would be to torture students who made mistakes again. After all, he's at his most abhorrent. It was the bad attitude towards the students when Pink Toad was the principal. But it seems like this. Is he carrying out torture just to increase his deterrence in the minds of young wizards? No wonder. As a squib, it was Dumbledore's mercy to have a job in the wizarding world. Face the naughty little wizards. But he didn't have any magic to counter the opponent. So he hopes that the little wizards will be afraid of him, fear him, which will also make it easier for him to carry out his work better. Naughty children in any country are a disaster. At least after the Battle of Hogwarts. While the students were all celebrating their victory, Filch was still holding a broom and silently cleaning Hogwarts, which was already in ruins. To some extent, this job has even exceeded his life. It has become the only value of his existence. Cedric reflected after reading the template card. Perhaps it was because I respected his work that I was able to gain his recognition so quickly. What a wonderful world! When shall we start? Come to your senses. Cedric immediately confirmed to Professor McGonagall. Maybe some people don't know Professor McGonagall is actually a master at this. In Deathly Hallows, she once summoned 3 silver cats to inform the other 3 deans that Harry Potter was back. Can split the patron saint into 3. The strength is evident. Okay, then starting from tomorrow, I will teach you for an hour every night. This is great. Cedric excitedly pulled out his schedule booklet. His daily itinerary is recorded here. 2 hours of boxing training in the morning, 2 hours of spell training, an hour's lunch break, 1 afternoon of spell training, 1 hour of review time, and 2 hours of reading time. Cedric first used the quill to copy the previous schedule exactly on a new page. Then gently brush the card with your hand. The ink on the card swam away like a tadpole and was quickly reorganized. A new schedule appears. Reading time in the evening was reduced by 1 hour and turned into learning spells with Professor McGonagall. Did you decide this for yourself? Professor McGonagall took the pamphlet curiously. There are dates below each itinerary. For example, the previous page says, August 1st to August 2nd, 1989, which means that Ling Yun followed the previous schedule for the first 2 days. She looked forward. To her surprise, she discovered that there was more to this booklet than she had imagined. 11 years old, 10 years old, 9 years old. Saw it when I was 5 years old. Professor McGonagall could no longer contain his surprise and exclaimed, You have been arranging your own schedule since you were 5 years old. So much yelling. For her who has always been strict, this is already a very rude behavior. You can see the shock in her heart at this moment. This is nothing, I'm just a little precocious. Cedric scratched his head. He glanced at the booklet, hoping Professor McGonagall would not turn to the last page. I'm just afraid of scaring her. But apparently his eyes reminded her. Professor McGonagall flipped open the last page and saw the following words, "Make it your mission to destroy Voldemort." Oh my god! She couldn't help but raise her palms to cover her mouth that suddenly grew in surprise. 10. Sorry, I was young and frivolous. Cedric apologized to the shocked Professor McGonagall. At that time, I didn't know the spell cast on those 3 words. Otherwise, I would have written the words mysterious man. I don't know if any Death Eaters nearby would notice it at that time. His brows furrowed. This matter has indeed become a knot in his mind. Because if there were any Death Eaters nearby at the time, they might have discovered that Voldemort was being talked about in their home. This may become a hidden danger. What, are you apologizing for this? Professor McGonagall was stunned again, as motionless as if he was petrified. She thought. Cedric will apologize for his arrogance when he was 5 years old. After all, who would dare to imagine? How dare a 5-year-old child regard the great Demon King, who has made the entire magic world fearful, as his lifelong wish? And look at this schedule. He not only established a goal, but also continued to move toward it with determination. A tick on every page of the schedule. They are all great testaments to his strong will. Is there anything else I haven't noticed, Professor? Cedric tilted his head slightly. He looked at Professor McGonagall with questioning eyes, fearing that he had made some mistakes. Shouldn't I keep these 3 words? No, no, everything is wrong, kid. Professor McGonagall stood up. She came to Cedric and hugged him emotionally. You're better than I thought. Really, you don't have to be like this. Professor McGonagall remained silent. That is, this world already has a destined child. To her. Cedric is heading towards an impossible goal. His bravery, strength, and self-discipline moved her. But this is fate. It's that cruel, but unchangeable fate. It's something you can't fight. A deep feeling of guilt, a kind of apology that I know you won't succeed, but I can't express it to you. All this eventually transformed into a heart full of love in her heart. Professor McGonagall held Cedric tightly in his arms. Child, come to Gryffindor, I will teach you well. Ding, I'm touched by Professor McGonagall's success. You get bonus talent points +1, Professor McGonagall character template card. Oh my god! How was Professor McGonagall so moved by himself? Cedric also thought that professors like Snape and Professor McGonagall were strong-willed. It will be very difficult to impress. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be easier than Filch. Without even saying anything against his will, Professor McGonagall had completed his self-guided strategy. Cedric, who was held in his arms, immediately turned on the system, template card, Minerva McGonagall talents, transformation, this talent can be upgraded to S level, Quidditch, this talent can be upgraded to A level, first-rate master wizard, magic +5 points, upper limit 90 points. Life wish list, item 1, brave and righteous Cedric, please be an outstanding student who satisfies her. By completing this wish list, you can upgrade your Quidditch talent to S level. The second item, protect Hogwarts, before Voldemort died, the number of little wizards in Hogwarts died was less than 5. By completing this wish list, you can upgrade your transformation talent to SS level. Item 3, protect Harry. Before Voldemort dies, protect Harry and prevent him from getting into trouble. Completing this wish list will prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. This difficulty. It's simply improved across the board. Apart from the fact that I still hope to fulfill the first wish, the next 2 are long and difficult. First up is the Little Wizard of Death. 50 people died in the Battle of Hogwarts. To fulfill this wish, it seemed that the Battle of Hogwarts needed to undergo a big change. Protecting Harry seemed easy. But the condition is that before Voldemort dies, this time span will be difficult. It is a life wish that cannot be fulfilled in advance. However, even if he only completed the first item, it would at least give him 2 S-level talents and increase his magic power by 5 points, which is still a great harvest. It seems that there are special requirements for increasing the magic power by more than 50 points. But what concerns Cedric the most? It's still Professor McGonagall's first wish in life. In fact, both the second and third items are understandable. They are all things that can be judged in the original work. But the first item. Is it actually related to myself? This shows that the character's life wish list can actually be changed. As long as you are important enough in the other person's heart, then a life wish list related to you will appear. This is a sign. The wish list of the character template card can be changed. If I become more and more valued by the other party, will those two tasks that are basically impossible to complete in advance also change? Whether it's for rewards or experiments. Cedric knows it all. How should the talent points obtained in the past few days increase? Talent points -3. A level to S level consumes 1 point, S level to SS level consumes 2 points. A level talent transformation, rising to SS level talent transformation, awakening title, natural animagus, turning on the title system, gaining legendary +1. Ding, it's due to changes in the protagonist's attributes. Minerva McGonagall's magic card value changes, life wish list 2, the reward is increased from the transformation talent to SS level, changed to, the transformation talent is increased to SSS level. Go ahead, this is really lucky. 11. Go ahead, this is really lucky. Can the rewards be upgraded? The reward for transformation was directly upgraded from SS level to SSS level? Cedric was originally worried that some of the rewards would be useless as his strength increased. No need to be afraid now. Therefore, when upgrading talents in the future, it will be fine as long as you do not directly upgrade to SSS level. The last level requires 3 talent points and it is most appropriate to use the bonus of template cards to upgrade. There are also legendary values. This value is very useful. First of all, the higher your legend value is, the higher your prestige will be. It's the legendary momentum. Secondly, legendary values can replace any upgrade conditions. For example, you can directly upgrade a level 1 magic spell, whether it is LV1 to LV2, or LV10 to Dzogchen. So is talent. From SS level to SSS level, just consume 1 point of legendary value. Even template card slots work. Of course, the consumed legendary value will not affect the momentum, because it is determined based on the upper limit. At last, every point of legendary value you don't use can increase the power of all your magic by 10%. This is calculated based on the actual legendary value. 10 points can double the magic power. Such comprehensive values. Cedric doesn't plan to use it right now. The world is changing so fast. He sighed in his heart. I didn't expect that just a hug from Professor McGonagall would cause such a big change in my face. He knew it too. There is a place for him in Professor McGonagall's heart. Although not as good as Harry for now. But as long as you persevere, you will one day be able to achieve transcendence. Transcendence is not the goal, but the reward is truly real. But I don't want to go to Gryffindor. Cedric left Professor McGonagall's arms and shook his head, rejecting her offer. First, he has his own ideas and arrangements. Secondly, he believed that Professor McGonagall would never be angry because he rejected her kindness. Really? Professor McGonagall was not angry and even apologized to him. Oh, I'm sorry, kid, I should respect your thoughts. Please forgive me. I just like you so much and hope to teach you more and witness your growth. This is definitely a wonderful experience. Cedric believed her completely. Each of the professors at Hogwarts is basically above the average level of teachers. They teach carefully and are very talented. They are the greatest treasure Cedric can find here. Sorry, Professor, what I really want to go to is Hufflepuff. Cedric does not follow its predecessor without any thought. But the decision was made after careful consideration. Gryffindor trains warriors and requires students to be brave and fearless. Slytherin cultivates ambitious people and requires students to be of good origin and have pure blood. Ravenclaw cultivates top academics and only recruits students who are smart and have extraordinary intelligence. Only Hufflepuff has no requirements for students, you just need to be a good person. Professor McGonagall blinked. She vaguely knew what Cedric wanted to say, but she didn't expect that the next words would be so shocking to her life. But I prefer Hufflepuff. Cedric said firmly. Rather than taking first place, they care more about the feelings of the people around them. They help the weak and will not treat you differently because of your status. Always. In the face of intelligence, bravery, and ambition, the value of kindness is far underestimated. The world is not short of people who want to succeed. But there is an urgent need for people who can lend a helping hand to sad friends, people who can create joy, and people who can mend the world. Maybe they can't do anything earth-shattering. but it is they who constitute the many details in this world that are so ordinary that they can almost be ignored, but are essential. Kindness, loyalty, and gratitude. Professor, I want to be a good person worthy of everyone's trust. This is definitely a cool choice. For love, dare to take risks and ride the wind and waves. Badger Yard is where my life belongs. Cedric blinked and said mischievously, also, who made me like cooking so much? Poof. The emotion in my heart instantly turned into a smile on my face. Professor McGonagall immediately realized that this was Cedric's hope that he would not take this matter too seriously. Be able to consider other people's emotions at this time. He is indeed a natural-born Hufflepuff. He is able to see his own mind clearly and work hard so far. This alone is better than countless people. Tears blurred Professor McGonagall's vision. If the person standing in front of her at this moment was a middle-aged man who had experienced many vicissitudes of life, then she would congratulate him for finally living a clear life. But faced with Cedric as a child, Professor McGonagall only felt endless distress in her heart, because Voldemort was the one who should bear the suffering. Cedric doesn't deserve this. She hugged Cedric into her arms again and hugged him with all her strength. Child, loyalty and kindness are extraordinary bravery. I sincerely wish you the best. And congratulations again in advance for becoming a member of the friendliest, most genuine, and toughest Hufflepuff Academy. Professor McGonagall felt his body tremble slightly. Cedric felt a little apologetic. He didn't want to make the other party feel so uncomfortable. Reminds me of Professor McGonagall's first wish list. Cedric raised his head and changed the subject. Actually, I think I have some talent in transformation. Can I ask you about my ability to transform? 12? Of course, kid. Professor McGonagall turned his head and quietly wiped away the tears from his eyes. She looked back. Putting his hands on Cedric's shoulders, he promised him, anytime, no matter what problems you have, you can come to me, do you understand? Thanks. Cedric didn't want Professor McGonagall to wallow in pain any longer. In addition, due to the improvement of his talent, a lot of knowledge about transformation has poured into his mind. Now his hands are itchy and he really wants to try the transformation spell. Professor, please teach me the transformation spell. Certainly. Professor McGonagall finally calmed down. She looked around the table, then cast a flying spell with her wand, holding a box of matches in her hand. Take out one of the black-headed matches and place it on the table. Professor McGonagall first demonstrated the transformation technique in person. Under her control, the black gunpowder part continues to shrink, eventually turning into a slender point that is difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. The square matchstick began to become smooth, round, and shiny, and finally shrank quickly at the end, leaving an eye-shaped vertical hole for the thread to pass through. When you change back, you have to cast Untransfiguration. After confirming that Cedric has seen clearly, Professor McGonagall immediately transformed the needle back into a match. This is great. Cedric also loves transformation. The Battle of Hogwarts. The scene when Professor McGonagall brought the school's statue to life and joined the battle had deeply shocked him at first. Quite a kind. It feels like Rowena Ravenclaw is reborn. A little further. When Harry took the Philosopher's Stone trap in his first year, the giant chessboard array was the work of Professor McGonagall. Take a deep breath. Cedric calmed down his nervousness. Although he has a lot of knowledge and experience in his mind and has memorized the entire teaching book, this is his first time trying it, so he is inevitably a little nervous. Transfiguration. Fortunately everything went well. Following Cedric's voice and movements, the matches on the table were smoothly transformed into embroidery needles. Very, very good, kid. Professor McGonagall picked up the embroidery needle with a look of surprise on his face. Well, the hardness is moderate. It's not too soft or too hard. Even the pointed tip has a frighteningly sharp penetrating feeling. This is perfect. Professor McGonagall had never seen such an outstanding little wizard. She couldn't help but ask, is this your first time performing it? Yes, of course I have already memorized the spells and movements in the book. Cedric knew this was a good opportunity. So he added casually, actually, I feel like I have some talent for transformation. I occasionally feel that I can turn into a special animal. What? The experienced Professor McGonagall immediately sensed something was wrong. Although there is a prerequisite for endorsement. But Cedric had only gotten the wand not long ago, and this was his first time using it, which proved his talent for transformation. But being able to feel like you can turn into an animal is another concept. Could it be? Professor McGonagall immediately thought of a possibility. Oh my god, could you be? She quickly stood up and paced back and forth for a long time, going over all the things to note in her mind, and then returned to Cedric's side. Child. You should be a born animagus. She looked at Cedric with loving eyes. This is a very rare top-level ability. I will help you confirm it now. No matter what happens later, you must stay calm, okay? No problem. Cedric nodded quickly. He brought this up. The purpose of using animagus for the first time was to have Professor McGonagall protect him. Very well, now you close your eyes and listen carefully to my words. Professor McGonagall comforted him softly. Can you imagine all the details of the animal you want to transform into? Okay. Cedric closed his eyes. The animal image soon appeared before his eyes. I can see its eyes, nose, eyebrows, hair, and claws clearly. Very good, then you start to circle around it and observe it from different angles. Normally, want to transform into an animal. It is not only necessary to understand the appearance, but also to understand the internal organs, even blood vessels and bones. But Cedric is already a born animagus after all. I've completed the spin. It's not just a circle. I can observe him 360 degrees, and it can also move under my control. Look, it's waving to me. Cedric had a great time with his eyes closed. Seeing that the time was right, Professor McGonagall called softly, well, now you walk into its body from behind and try to control it. Take a deep breath. It's normal to feel weird and twisted. Soon, a fat man appeared in Professor McGonagall's office. 13. What animal is this? Professor McGonagall raised his head, waved nervously at the beast in front of him, and asked with concern, Are you okay, kid? I feel great. Cedric spoke, but found himself letting out a low growl. He realized that he had changed. So he nodded instead and patted his chest with a huge animal paw to indicate that he was adapting well. You succeeded, my boy. Professor McGonagall hugged one of Cedric's arms with great relief. After some looking around, she discovered that Ling Yun's animagus was as fat as a bear, plump and graceful, with a round head and short tail. But it's definitely not a bear. First of all, its hair is wrong. Its body color is black and white, its cheeks are round, and there are large dark circles surrounding its eyeballs. And the remainder is bigger than the average brown bear. At this moment, he was 2 meters tall when he was sitting on the ground. If he were to stand upright, he would be at least over 2.5 meters tall. The body is also round, and you can tell by looking at it that it is not light. It was definitely a ferocious beast that she had never seen before. After measuring the opponent's arm, which was thicker than his own waist, Professor McGonagall asked in confusion, but do you know what kind of animal this is? Cedric nodded. He dipped his paw in ink and wrote a word on the ground. Panda. Professor McGonagall looked up and down at the behemoth in front of him. He clicked his tongue and said in wonder, I heard that this animal did exist in the ancient East, but is it so big? Indeed not. Cedric lowered his head and hugged his belly. My panda, which is nearly 3 meters tall, can be considered an enlarged and enhanced version. All limbs are as thick as an average person's waist. It took at least 3 people to hug him. When he stood up, he was already not far from the ceiling. This is Kung Fu Panda in Panda? Cedric made a few punches, which were surprisingly smooth. Underneath the thick fat, it is a very powerful muscle group, and it can easily make the wind sound with just a wave of your hand. Choking, rubbing his paws. The refreshing scratching sound also made him very satisfied with the hardness of his claws. It is indeed a national treasure. This combat effectiveness is still very powerful. The combat power should be very strong, but it is too conspicuous. Professor McGonagall circled around Ling Yun. After feeling the strength of this giant panda, he patted his arm and called, Very well, kid, can you try to get it to go back? Cedric made a nasal sound. Then I started imagining my own body in my mind. 3 seconds later, like a balloon deflating, Cedric felt the ceiling getting further and further away from his head, and then quickly returned to his human state. Consider this a success. He looked at himself magically. The feeling just now was really amazing. My strength had definitely doubled. You need to know that you are now loading Hagrid's template. Strength is 4 points. That's 4 times that of an ordinary adult male. Wouldn't it be 8 o'clock to turn into a giant panda? Let's just say. Man, this animagus is very powerful in combat. Professor McGonagall checked it carefully again. After confirming that Cedric was not missing any arms or legs, she finally felt relieved, very perfect. She clapped her hands to celebrate Cedric. You did a good job, but you still need to practice more. Without me around from now on, you can't do it at will until you master it completely. Clear. Let's continue learning to transform. Cedric urged excitedly. For the rest of the time, Professor McGonagall continues to teach Cedric the transfiguration charm. I don't know if the first-year transfiguration class was too simple, or if Cedric's review was too comprehensive, or if he had learning experience from his previous life. Anyway, after an hour. It was only when Professor McGonagall finished teaching that he suddenly realized that he had finished teaching half of the elementary transfiguration guide. This was an experience she had never had before. She has taught hundreds of young wizards now, but she has never met a student like Cedric. Any question? Professor McGonagall only needs to say it once for the other person to understand. Even most of the time, it can be successful in actual combat. Raise the difficulty again and again. But they couldn't hinder Cedric at all. Cedric, you shocked me again. Professor McGonagall has lost count of how many times he has praised Cedric to his face. But facing such outstanding students, who can bear it? I just reviewed more solidly. Cedric said modestly. Boy, you are perfect. Professor McGonagall couldn't help but think. How wonderful it would be if the Cedric in front of him was the son of prophecy. It was the first time in my life that I met such a perfect student. I'll be proud of you. Ding, Professor McGonagall's first life wish has been fulfilled. Your Quidditch talent has been upgraded from A to S level. Completed so easily. Don't you need me to get straight A's in the wizard exam or something? Cedric gained so much tonight. He wanted to say it. Professor, in fact, the rewards you gave me also contributed a lot to my perfection. Now he is also a master at Quidditch. Okay, we've had enough excitement tonight. Professor McGonagall rubbed his temples. The emotional ups and downs took a lot of energy out of her, and she thought Cedric had learned too much in one night. It also takes time to digest. Let's stop here today. Okay, Professor. Cedric sends Professor McGonagall away. She had a villa in Hogsmeade, and he now lived in the same place where Professor McGonagall lived when he was teaching. It is a room entered through a secret door in the wall of the study on the second floor. Satisfied, Cedric was still thinking as he fell asleep. Professor McGonagall needs to take it easy. The next person to be recruited should be Snape. Initial goals. Get the opponent's template card first. 14. Hogwarts, Dungeons. Potions Classroom. Cedric threw dried nettles and ground snake teeth into the crucible and stewed them together. After taking the cauldron off the fire, he finally added the porcupine quills. Wait until a steady dark green color appears in the pot. Cedric took half a step back and said to Snape, who was reading a book on the podium, "Okay, Professor." Snape came over with a bad look on his face. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with the potion, he reached out and took out the wand and emptied the potion inside. "You've almost learned all the potions you need to learn in first grade," he said with a sigh of relief. "It seems I can finally be quiet for a few days." "No, Professor, you know a lot, and I want to continue learning from you." Cedric certainly wouldn't miss the opportunity. The first grade is finished, and there are still 6 years to go. Moreover, there are many unique secret recipes and techniques of Snape. As the youngest potion master, Snape also has many treasured potions in his hands, which are the kind that are not seen on the market. Cedric couldn't afford it if he had to buy it himself. It would be best if I could practice using his potions. Although Snape put on a bad face. But in fact, he was actually very satisfied with the smart and studious Cedric. "Then tell me. What other potions do you want to learn?" It was obvious that Snape was actually reluctant to give up. Cedric clicked them all without hesitation. "You can do it all. I want to learn everything you know, the potions in your studies, your own potions, spells, or other powerful ones. The main thing is that I am not afraid of too much and can learn everything." The main reason is that Snape has a lot of good things, such as occlumency and the flying spell without any props. In the original work, only Voldemort and Snape were shown. Other spells such as the Shadowless Blade, the Upside-Down Golden Bell, and listening with earplugs closed are also very practical spells. Snape. Even Snape couldn't hold back when facing Cedric, who was smiling broadly and opening his mouth wide. I didn't notice it before. Snape turned around brilliantly and walked towards the podium. Humph, you are quite greedy. Hey hey. Cedric smoothed his hair and said calmly, what I want to do requires a lot of strength. I can't slack off for a moment. Snape paused. He already knew from Professor McGonagall the schedule that the other party had started when he was 5 years old. It just made Professor McGonagall sad. They all believed that Cedric's efforts were useless because he was the savior, or Voldemort's nemesis. It would only be Harry Potter. With such perseverance, you may find that you get nothing in the end. Is it worth it? Snape didn't look back. But the sound was a little erratic. This sentence seems to be asking Cedric, but also seems to be asking himself many years ago, and his future self. Where there's a will, there's a way. Cedric has been waiting for this moment. Sad, dedicated Professor Snape. You lived for 38 years, spent 9 years waiting for her, spent 29 years loving her, spent 22 years confessing that mudblood sentence, spent 4 minutes hugging her cold body, and spent 7 years protecting her son. It took me a second to look at those identical eyes again. Let me give you a little more motivation. When I set a goal, I don't know if I can reach it, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying the scenery on the journey. Live every day seriously. You are responsible for everything you do and every word you say, and you bear all the consequences. Take it seriously and have no regrets. This is a meaningful life. Cedric was still laughing heartlessly. Snape, who had his back turned to him, had closed his eyes. His childhood sweetheart was cut off by a mudblood. He did lose his true love, but it was his own fault. Because, he didn't even try to express his love to Lily. Arrogant Slytherins are good at missing their lovers. Take it seriously and have no regrets? After a while, Snape's gloomy voice came, you are becoming more and more like the little lion I hate most. Ding, you moved Snape successfully. You get bonus talent points +1, Snape character template card. Duplicity, Professor Snape. Cedric, who knew Snape's true thoughts, boldly corrected him with a smile, wrong, wrong. Professor, I have already told you that I want to enter Hufflepuff. Cedric's words interrupted Snape's recollection. He turned around and looked at Cedric with a slightly envious look. At such a young age, he knows what he really wants. This alone is already much better than him. Of course, it is impossible to have a good attitude on the surface. He snorted, Hufflepuff. Like you said, this is your own decision. Apart from potions, do you really want to learn from me about other things? Of course. Cedric nodded without hesitation. Okay, I will prepare it, now you leave. Snape waved his hand. From now on, you can come to me and study for an hour at 8 o'clock every night. Thank you, Professor. Cedric was very happy to have reached his destination. He hummed Sunshine and Rainbow and the little white horse started to put away the teaching aids, then washed his hands at the monster-shaped gargoyle in the stone basin in the corner, and left the potions classroom happily. Snape remained silent the entire time. It had been a long time since such happy singing had sounded in his dark underground classroom. Cedric leaving. He immediately opened Snape's character template card outside the door. 15. This is really... Looking at Snape's character template, Cedric felt a lot of emotion. Template card, Severus Snape talents, potions, spells, this talent can be upgraded to S level, occlumency, this talent can be upgraded to SS level, Super Master Wizard, Magic plus 5 points, upper limit 90 points. Life wish list, the first item, find your own heir, please become an heir that satisfies him. By completing this wish list, you can upgrade your spell and potion talents to SS level. Item 2, Voldemort's death, needs to be witnessed or confirmed. Completing this wish list will prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. Item 3, the child is still alive and has the same eyes as Lily, protect Harry before he dies. By completing this wish list, you can upgrade your occlumency, spells, and potion talents to SSS level. Okay. Starting point is double S, 1 SS. After completing the first character, you can get double SS. After completing the last item, it is directly 3 SSS. But no one else has this level of difficulty. I just don't have enough card slots. How should I get this legend? Cedric thought about it. Legend, Legend. Is it to create a new legend in the school? He secretly took note of this and decided to give the new students a big surprise after enrolling. However, the legendary value can only open 2 card slots at most. There are many other professors who are worth signing up for. First up is Sybil Trelawney, the seer of the Neuro Knife. The most commendable thing in her life is that she predicted Harry's savior. Dumbledore hired her to teach at Hogwarts. If she could predict it again in her life, it would be worth the price of admission. After I opened her card and gained the power of prophecy, I wonder if I can directly see the future like Grindelwald. The second side knife is Gilderoy Lockhart. This guy is Harry Potter's second-year defense against the dark arts professor. Although he is a vase, he is surprisingly good at forgetting spells and can control others for a lifetime. It's a tough trick to learn. Other teachers are also not to be missed. Hufflepuff Principal Pomona Sprout is a master of herbology, and her herbal talent must be ridiculously high. Phileas Flivy, the Dean of Ravenclaw Academy, was the former dueling champion of the Dueling Club. Of course, the most important ones are Dumbledore and Harry. A template for these two. Cedric couldn't even imagine how wonderful it would be, but if he wanted to impress the latter, it would be fine. But the former is very troublesome. He hadn't mastered occlumency yet, so he didn't even dare to hang out in front of him. There are many people who can be considered masters: werewolf teacher Remus John Lupin, Centaur Forenza, Mad-Eye Alastair, Moody. Even the humble teacher, Cedric, did not ignore him. Ghost Cuthbert Binns, Professor of History of Magic, Mrs. Hooch, Professor of Flying Lessons. Although these two are average in strength. But maybe the tasks of template cards are also very ordinary. If you can complete the option of exempting the card slot, it will be somewhat beneficial. In order to kill Voldemort, no matter how small the gain is, it cannot be missed. Mosquito legs are also meat. The rest is the experience gained from the test, which can only be obtained by completing the schedule every day and completing the tests of different characters. The biggest gain so far is Snape's 1000 points. Cedric also frowned on the test between Hagrid, Fang and Filch, but it was not something that could be completed in a short time. But Professor McGonagall is a little strange. She has completed her first wish list. Why hasn't she completed the test? Is it because of that spell? In order to upgrade the magic power to 50 points as soon as possible, Cedric spent the next few days carefully studying the Patronus charm taught by Professor McGonagall. Although his magic power is already 47 points. However, this spell was extremely difficult. After 3 days, he could still only eject wisps of silver gas from the end of the wand. These gases coalesce into a clump. But they can never be gathered into the form of any living creature. It's okay, kid, you've made rapid progress now, far beyond everyone I know. Saw Cedric fail again. Professor McGonagall found it very normal. Because the frustration for Cedric is that he didn't learn it the first time. It takes 3 days to learn how to call for protection. It's only a slight setback for Cedric. Cedric has no choice but to speed up now. Experience points can be used to upgrade enchantments. But it must be released completely by him first. So let's not say that he doesn't have experience points at the moment. Even if he does, he won't give priority to adding some practicable magic spells. It's okay, Professor, we can continue. Cedric was not discouraged. This little setback cannot bring him negative emotions. It's just that he doesn't understand. I have obviously dreamed of being happy, so why have I never been able to succeed? After 3 more failures, Cedric had to ask Professor McGonagall his question. Maybe, that's not what you're really happy about. This is the difference between having teaching experience. Professor McGonagall's words successfully prompted Cedric. An idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Correct. I have always imagined how happy I would be after defeating Voldemort. But in fact, killing Voldemort is not the source of my happiness, but the world without Voldemort. Me at that time. What will make you happy? A picture appeared in Cedric's eyes, the corners of his mouth curled up, and then he waved his wand. Call the gods to protect you. The silver strands quickly condensed into an animal form. 16. Your new success, Cedric. Professor McGonagall congratulated. Then he looked towards the patron saint condensed by Cedric. Its appearance looks a bit like an elegant ape man, with a pair of large black eyes hidden in its hair, and only a hint of sadness emerges from the gaps in the hair. This is... Professor McGonagall quickly recognized the creature. She stared at the creature, which was covered with silk-like, silvery long fine hairs. He slowly spoke out its information. The invisible beast demiguise is a gentle-tempered herbivore that likes peace. The invisible beast's fur is very valuable because its hair can be used to weave invisibility cloaks. This is a gentle and sensitive guardian angel. But why is this? Professor McGonagall was indeed confused. With Cedric's hatred of evil and his unswerving determination to destroy Voldemort as his own mission. Why is this a patron saint? Yeah, I didn't expect it at first. Cedric smiled in relief. He always thought so. My patron saint will be more majestic and domineering, or at least a very lively animal. But I think back to the happiness I imagined just now. He understood. Just now, what kind of happiness were you thinking about? Professor McGonagall also reacted. Afternoon, tea, dessert, a rocking chair, a book, a cat or a dog, and the warm sunshine. Cedric held out his hand. The invisible beast in midair narrowed its eyes and obediently rubbed its head against his outstretched palm, like a docile cat. Professor McGonagall's eyes sparkled again. It turns out that the real happiness of the sunny and cheerful boy is just a warm afternoon. Guilt gnawed at her insides. Professor McGonagall, who was cold on the outside and hot on the inside, felt extremely guilty. This is all due to the incompetence of us adult wizards, who cannot even provide a peaceful environment for children. He forcibly forced a quiet little wizard to become a wizard who worked hard to fight against the darkness. Even a comfortable childhood cannot be enjoyed. But Professor McGonagall couldn't stop Cedric. She couldn't tell him that everything was destined and tell him to stop trying. Because this is a complete negation of his past efforts. It might even cause his faith to collapse. Congratulations, kid. That's it for today. Professor McGonagall hurriedly covered his face and left. And Cedric was immersed in this rare moment of peace. He sat down face to face with his patron saint, staring in a meaningless daze. Until a series of system beeps woke him up. Congratulations on passing Professor McGonagall's test and gaining 1000 experience points. Congratulations on passing Principal Dumbledore's preliminary test and gaining 2000 experience points. Initial test? Are there still stages to the test? And why was McGonagall with Dumbledore? Cedric's eyes suddenly became clear. After receiving the reward, he should have been happy, but he couldn't help but shudder. The patron saint in front of him also made a ripple and turned into countless starlights and disappeared. Patroness charm. Did Dumbledore ask Professor McGonagall to teach him? So, is this to test what's inside of me? This is not funny, because many Death Eaters cannot summon a patroness at all. Magic has a lot to do with the human heart. Recalling the incident when Professor McGonagall mentioned teaching him the patroness charm, Cedric suddenly broke out in sweat. I thought I hadn't been noticed by Dumbledore yet, but I didn't expect that he had already arranged for McGonagall to test me on the first day I entered Hogwarts. This old man is good at planning. There is no doubt that he is one of the most scheming wizards in the entire HP. The sense of oppression he brings to people is really terrifying. It's a pity. If your calculations weren't so ruthless, I would rather communicate with you more. What a pity. In order to win, you can die yourself, Snape, or even Harry. I don't want to die. So I was destined to find my own way. What fate, what plan? I want to prove the truth with my strength. I want to try if I can break fate when I have the strength to crush Voldemort. Truly become the one who solves everything. Aren't they just 7 Horcruxes? Voldemort, just wait, I am destined to score 7-0 on you. Next up is Cedric. He continued to consume magic power to practice magic until he was exhausted, and then climbed into the resting room. Go find Snape tomorrow morning. It can't be delayed any longer. I just got 3000 experience points, so I must upgrade occlumency first. And we have to find a way. I want Snape not to notice that I actually care about occlumency. This is a bit difficult. After all, it's still a child's body. After his magic power was drained, Cedric quickly fell asleep through various methods. Good thing. This question did not bother him for long. Because Snape not only accepted it, but also increased the time he spent teaching him to 3 hours a day. It also tested his learning ability in an all-round way. 17. Occlumency, do you really don't want to learn it anymore? Snape confirmed to Cedric again. Yes, if the hard training is just to close my brain so that no one can detect it, for me, I would actually rather let everyone know what I think. Cedric was calm on the surface, but actually he was very excited. Occlumency is finally here. Consumption of 2800 experience points. Occlumency LV1, 1/100, is upgraded to Occlumency LV8, 1/800. In an instant, a large amount of knowledge poured into his mind. Cedric mastered this ability instantly and put his brain completely under his own supervision. Very good. There is only 1700 experience points short of the full level 10, 800 points from 8 to 9, 900 points from 9 to 10. It should be difficult for ordinary people to break through their own defenses. Even if the other party probes, he will react and even be able to concentrate to fight. What a boring idea. Although Snape said this, he still recorded this item carefully. Soon the entire test was completed. Except for occlumency, which Cedric didn't like to learn, his tests in both spells and potions were close to perfect scores. If you consider his age, it's normal for everyone to give him full marks. Very talented. I must admit that you are the most outstanding first-year student I have ever seen. Snape looked at the record in his hand. I couldn't help but have thoughts in my heart. He will be lurking next to Voldemort in the future, and he doesn't know where his future destiny will drift. If only he could have a disciple who could succeed him. It seems pretty good too. Cedric has undergone an upgrade to occlumency, and his perception of eyes has become even more acute. After noticing Snape's gaze, he showed his trademark smile of a cheerful big boy. Professor, I will work harder. Snape suddenly closed the notebook in his hand. Then let's start now. Yes. Cedric calmed down and began to listen carefully to Snape's teachings. Learning is fulfilling. By the time Cedric came to his senses, it was already 3 days before the start of school at Hogwarts. The professors are all busy. With his free time, Cedric had time to think about what he should do after enrolling in school. 3 days flew by in the blink of an eye. September 1, 1989, was the day the Hogwarts Express departed again. Child, are you sure you want to do this? The Diggorys looked at Cedric and the sign he held with uncomprehending eyes. The sign read, Hogwarts Guide. Certainly. Cedric placed the sign under his hands. After confirming that the position of his hands would not block the text, he raised his head and explained to his parents, perhaps for a pure-blood wizard like me, magic and the Hogwarts Express are all self-evident common sense and the default standard of life. But in fact, for many students from Muggle families who are exposed to magic for the first time, these commonplace things may pose a challenge to them when they try it for the first time. Mr. and Mrs. Diggory looked at each other. My son always seems to make sense every time he speaks. While I was living in Hogwarts, Professor McGonagall often went out to find those Muggle-born wizards to let them know about the existence of the magical world. Most of the time, this is the first time in their lives that they understand the entire magical world. Cedric continued to explain. He tried to bring them more into the perspective of Muggle home wizards. Think about it, they probably don't know about Dumbledore, they don't know about Hogwarts, they don't even know about butterbeer, BB's braised beans and chocolate frogs. I heard the familiar beer and snacks. The Diggorys nodded repeatedly and agreed with Cedric's argument. That seems to be the case. Guide and perfect, pure-blood wizards recognize wizards from Muggle families, and reward 100 experience points. Certainly. Cedric was shocked after receiving the reward. He continued to guide, even if they learn more about the magical world from the books they bought in advance, the awkwardness and confusion they feel when they first arrive in the magical world will not be completely eliminated. He patted himself. To a certain extent, this is also a kind of emotional comfort. It can make them completely relax on the first step when they arrive at Hogwarts. Since Hogwarts will admit all kinds of wizards, then I just hope that in future studies, everyone can be less antagonistic, more understanding, less hostile, and more tolerant. Mr. and Mrs. Diggory nodded. Good, good, still familiar taste and familiar formula. The days when I was taught by my son to be righteous and upright came back after disappearing for more than a month. It's still that familiar feeling. After 5 years of experience, they can easily control such a scene. Kid, do what you think is right, I will always support you. Come on, we'll leave first. Mr. Diggory patted Cedric on the shoulder and gave him an approving look. Although he couldn't fully understand his son. But he didn't care. As long as this does not hinder him, he can just go to his neighbors and colleagues to show off with the complimentary envelopes that Professor McGonagall keeps mailing him. We're proud of you, kid. Mrs. Diggory hugged Cedric and left with her husband. Soon. The first batch of students to report have arrived at King's Cross Station. 18. Hogwarts Guide. When did you arrange the work? Hey? Why haven't I seen you? A lady in gorgeous clothes and exquisite jewelry was standing at the entrance looking at him up and down. Cedric has a good memory. In addition, there are not many pure-blood families left. So he immediately recognized this lady with plum freckles on her left forehead. Hello, Mrs. Avery. I'm Cedric Diggory and I'm here to guide new students who are unfamiliar with the admissions process. Oh, the Diggory children look really good. I heard he was a pure-blood descendant. Mrs. Avery greeted her politely and left with her children. In fact, it's easy to tell who's coming. The wizard families entered the station with firm eyes and walked straight towards the 9 3/4 position. As for Muggle families, it's different. They will first eagerly look for a spot between platforms 9 and 10. Wait until you see Cedric. They will invariably show expressions of relief. Please don't worry, the Hogwarts Express will leave at 11 o'clock, you still have enough time. Correctly guide new students to board the bus in an orderly manner, and 100 experience points will be awarded. The journey takes about 6 hours, and there are carts selling lunch and snacks on board. Don't worry after you get off the bus. There will be Gamekeeper Hagrid and Dean of Students Filch to guide everyone. Inform the new students correctly about the admission system and reward them with 100 experience points. Don't worry, everyone will have their own bed. Yes, there are all kinds of food. If you are hungry and want to eat, you can always go to the kitchen to get it, or you can find me. I'm Cedric. Correctly answer the questions of the new students and you will be rewarded with 100 experience points. Things were not as tiring as Cedric thought. The wizards who went to school in 1989 were actually born in 1978, when Voldemort was at his peak. In this turbulent era, not many wizards were willing to have children at that time. It wasn't until 80 years after Harry Potter was born and Voldemort was destroyed for the first time that the number of newborns would surge again. Wait until Harry Potter is in 5th grade. Hogwarts now has close to 1,000 students. The current number of students in Hogwarts is only over 300. The total number of freshmen this year is only 32, but there are quite a few wizards from Muggle families among them, as many as 11. Cedric stayed on guard for 2 hours. A total of 1,100 experience points were received, plus the remaining 200 points, for a total of 1,300 available experience points. He first raised the magic power in his heart to the full. Consumption of 800 experience points. Your initial magic power increases from 42 points to 50 points, triggering the medal, Born to be Extraordinary. Born to be Extraordinary, the upper limit of magic power is increased by 10 points, from 100 to 110 points. Well, the medal actually has additional bonus effects. Cedric suddenly became happy. Isn't this another channel for improvement? In the future, as various numerical values increase, I should be able to activate various bonuses. Let's go, let's go. I glanced at the time and there were 5 minutes left. Cedric rushed into platform 9 3/4 with the sign in hand. The Crimson Hogwarts Express was parked next to the platform. Woo woo. The chimney of the steam locomotive emitted thick black smoke amidst the sound of the whistle, reminding reluctant people that the Hogwarts Express was about to leave. Cedric is very agile. He quickly passed through the chattering crowd, stepped on the pedal and quickly jumped into the car. The first few carriages were already crowded with students. Cedric, who had spoken a lot just now, was already a little tired. He walked all the way to the back, found a quiet car, locked it, and began to lie down and rest. Wake up! It's already noon. Cedric opened the carriage door so that he could buy himself some more food when the dining car passed by. As a result, the dining car didn't come. However, a pair of twin brothers with fiery red hair passed by first. Hey, look, who is this? Hey, let me think about it. Ah, by the way, isn't this our great good man, Cedric? Oh, by the way, good guy Cedric. He's so good at pretending. The reason why Fred and George were so mean to him was. That's because at the entrance, Mrs. Weasley praised Cedric so much when she saw him. While praising him as someone else's child, she also taught the two brothers a good lesson. Cedric knows the charm of men. In fact, it lies in strength and humility. As a guide, that's how he shows his humble side. Now that the Weasley twins are shining over him, he has to show his strong side. Transfiguration. 1 second later. Cedric in Kung Fu Panda form opens his mouth in a condescending manner. He let out a long roar towards the two of them. Roar. Roars and spittle flew everywhere, murderous intent and fishy smell danced together. Ah! The Weasley twins, with their faces covered in saliva, fled instantly. Mom, there is a bear. There's a big bear. Black and white. Like a devil. Because he ran too fast. The Weasley twins collided and fell to the floor of the corridor at the same time, and then crawled away on all fours at high speeds. How embarrassing to be. It's finally quiet. The next time. Cedric soon waited for the dining car. He stared blankly at the rapidly passing pastures and plains outside for a while, until the sky gradually became dark. Finally, the Hogwarts platform arrived. Freshmen! Freshmen, come over here! Cedric was still in the car. Then I heard the shouts of Hagrid and Filch. Speaking of which, did Filch appear here, or was he the one who suggested it? I wonder how he did it. He did not rush to get off the bus with others. Instead, he waited until the end, jumped out of the car, found the group of first-year students, and followed them at the back. All freshmen, follow me. Watch your step. Hagrid's tall figure led the way holding an oil lamp. Filch quickly found Cedric, who was standing at the end of the team. He said coyly, Cedric, do you think it's still too late for me? 19. What do you mean, Mr. Filch? Cedric doesn't understand what the other party means. Is it because I asked him to take care of the newcomers, and then he became unhappy? Never mind. If he doesn't want to, I won't force him anymore. It seemed that it would be difficult to make him popular among the new students. He might as well concentrate on researching the drug to break the squib. No, no, no. It's not like that. Filch waved his hands repeatedly, with some embarrassment on his face. He turned around with some restraint, facing away from the first-year student in front of him, and then took out a small red delicate card from his pocket. Cedric wanted to pick it up. Filch carefully avoided his hand. I will do it myself. Rough hands gently untied the silk greeting card. Filch spread out the greeting card as if offering a treasure, and then unfolded the card with both hands. Fingertips point to sign. Look, this is my name, Mr. Filch, and this is the card Tyne gave me. Oh, is it so? Only then did Cedric react. He remembered the name Tyne, one of the 11 Muggle family wizards. It seemed that when his family sent him to school, they taught him some little tricks after school. I also received many similar gadgets at the door. Cedric remembered. He had already introduced Hagrid and Filch at that time, and they probably remembered them right away. They even wrote his name specifically and used the greeting card as a little gift. Although this kind of flattery is not worth promoting. But it has become a supporting point for Filch's transformation. Cedric immediately encouraged, look, sometimes it's not that hard to be liked, right? But Filch subconsciously raised his hand and touched his face. Come to think of it, he also knows that his appearance is not liked by others. Okay. Cedric held his hand, you couldn't tell me that the student who sent you the greeting card just now couldn't see you. Watching the team in front of me go further and further away. Cedric could only hold Filch and talk while walking. Of course, it would be nice if the appearance could be cleaner. What else can I do? Filch carefully put away the greeting card and followed Cedric quietly. You are a Hogwartsman. There is so much you can do if you want to. Cedric had already thought about this. But he didn't expect it. I will have the opportunity so soon to guide Filch to do this. For example, many students will be troubled by moving stairs and even delay class. I can tell them how to go. Also, remember what I said before? Punishment does not gain respect. Of course you will be punished for violating school rules, but you can tell them the dangers. Filch shook his hands. He repeated everything he had heard from Cedric before but did not really understand. Every school rule has a reason behind it. For example, it's forbidden to hang out outside at night. It happened before. A young wizard named Latrell was wandering outside and accidentally encountered a magic trap and was seriously injured. Like the Forbidden Book Zone. There was a little wizard who chanted the spell above randomly and ended up with a lizard's head on his head and spent half a semester in the infirmary. There are a lot more. I want to warn them and make them truly aware of the dangers. When punishing, you can also tell them about the unknown history of Hogwarts. The two talked all the way. Hagrid led everyone down a steep and narrow path. The oil lamp in his hand illuminated the surrounding area for at most 3 meters. The team behind them almost all used the moonlight to grope in the darkness with 1 foot lower and 1 foot higher. Because Filch had an oil lamp in his hand, several students leaned here subconsciously. Go! Cedric bumped into Filch. Ah, oh, oh. Filch raised the oil lamp in his hand high, and then walked forward into the second half of the line. Children, come here, I have an oil lamp here. Watch your step. Just around the corner, you can see Hogwarts for the first time. Hagrid, who was at the front of the team, had no choice but to look back. I told you my words, what should I do? In desperation, Hagrid had no choice but to stand at the corner and open his arms to everyone, welcome to Hogwarts. A black lake suddenly opened up at the end of the path. Everyone looked up. Looking around, there is a high hillside on the other side of Who, and a towering castle stands on the hillside. There are many castle spears. Warm yellow candlelight spilled out through the window. Each boat can seat up to 4 people. Hagrid jumped on a boat himself. Filch seemed to have enlightened himself now. He stood on the shore and helped every student get on the boat. I even had a fight with 2 students. Ding, you look like a true gentleman on the outside, attract people to do good, and inspire Filch to really start helping others. You will be rewarded with 1000 experience points. Very good, but in the end I end up on a boat by myself. Cedric complained. But for the sake of experience points, this is bearable. Then he put on Hagrid's simulation card, walked alone in a small boat, and rowed quickly towards Hogwarts. Soon, Hogwarts continues to magnify in everyone's eyes. In this era, such a magnificent building can indeed give people a huge shock. Perhaps, freshmen must row into Hogwarts just to leave this imprint on their hearts. Certainly. Cedric just thought it was beautiful. At the same time, he was also muttering in his heart, Hogwarts is full of mysterious magic. It should be different this time, right? The boat carried everyone through the ivy curtain to the secret open entrance. Along the dark passage, they arrived at the underground dock. Climbing dozens of steps. After landing on a ground paved with gravel and cobblestones, everyone has officially entered Hogwarts. 20. In front of the huge oak door, Professor McGonagall was waiting for the arrival of the new students with his lips pursed. Condescending. The first thing she saw was Hagrid, then the students, and then she saw Filch in a boat, and Cedric in a single boat, rowing hard to catch up. McGonagall frowned slightly. I felt slightly unhappy. Filch went to join in the fun, but Cedric took the boat alone. Filch is really weird in the extreme. Not only did the students hate him, but almost none of the professors liked him. But the next scene. But it made Professor McGonagall look at Filch with admiration. After Hagrid docked, he took the list and walked towards Professor McGonagall, but Filch stood on the shore. After pulling all the little wizards ashore, he started to bite the dust with Cedric, the last one. The two seemed happy talking and laughing. More importantly, Filch, who had been looking grumpy all day, was actually very happy and smiling all the way. No need to guess. This must be all thanks to Cedric. What a magical child, it seems that even cows can understand human nature after listening to his words. Professor, everyone is here. Hagrid reminded in a low voice. Okay. Professor McGonagall comes to his senses. She returned to her usual neatness, turned around and opened the door. The burning torch on the stone wall brought light and heat to the children who had just crossed the dark lake. Everyone follow me. Professor McGonagall warned. Then he led the freshmen up the luxurious marble staircase. In the auditorium, the senior students have all arrived. They whispered to each other, making the whole auditorium buzz with voices. Professor McGonagall led the freshmen through the auditorium into a small room at the other end of the hall. Welcome to Hogwarts. Professor McGonagall said, before the opening banquet, we will conduct a test on which college everyone will enter. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house has its own glorious history, and it has cultivated many outstanding wizards and witches. During your stay at Hogwarts, your outstanding performance will add points to the house, while violations of the rules will reduce the points of the house. At the end of the year, the college with the highest score will win the College Cup. I hope you all bring glory to your academy. The sorting ceremony will be held in front of all the teachers and students of the school. When it's ready over there, I'll come to pick you up. Professor McGonagall glanced at everyone, while waiting, please keep quiet. With that, she left the room. The room suddenly became quiet. Everyone squeezed together with their magic swords rubbing against each other, and there was a tense atmosphere everywhere in the room. After a while of silence, soon a weak voice sounded in the room, what do you think the sorting ceremony is like? I don't know, but I heard it will be very harsh and may even get us injured. Injured? Are you asking us to fight some monster? There are many magical plants that are also very dangerous. But we haven't learned anything yet. Everyone's voices became more and more urgent, and their guesses about the sorting ceremony became more and more outrageous. When Cedric came in after communicating with Filch, he even heard someone mention a fire dragon. I just don't know if the elders in his family are responsible for designing the Triwizard tournament schedule. Bang! The sound of Cedric's door closing attracted the attention of many people. He is the guide. You're here? What's wrong? Is the sorting ceremony about to begin? Looking at the pair of longing eyes, Cedric showed a warm smile. Don't worry, everyone. Although I am also a freshman this year, I can assure you that the sorting ceremony will never hurt you. His words instantly raised more questions. What, you're a freshman too? Then how can you be the guide? For some special reasons, I checked into Hogwarts early and got to know a little bit about it. That's cool, man. Have you learned magic? Of course, I have learned several magics. If you don't understand in the future, you can always come to me. You are so smart, you must be a Ravenclaw. The sorting ceremony hasn't started yet, but I like Hufflepuff better. Cedric was like a press conference. He kept a nice smile and answered everyone's questions calmly. Following his answers one by one, the atmosphere in the room is also much better. Gradually, even the wizards from pure-blood wizard families were full of affection for Cedric. In the corner, the Weasley twins, who were out of tune with the surrounding emotions, were staring at Cedric with a sullen expression. When we learn magic, Fred spoke bitterly. We must avenge this. After George finished speaking, the two brothers turned to look at each other at the same time, and then nodded fiercely. From now on, the battle between one king and two ghosts has officially begun. Bang! Professor McGonagall returned to the classroom again. Follow me and form a single file. Come on, classmates, just stand behind me. Cedric was the first to follow. Ding! If you successfully appease your classmates, you will be rewarded with 1000 experience points. Very good. With a smile on his face, Cedric quickly followed Professor McGonagall to the front of the teacher's chair, facing all the students. The patched and dirty sorting hat was placed in front of everyone. The freshmen all looked at Cedric intentionally or unintentionally. Cedric, on the other hand, stared at the houses. Then, his hat cracked a slit that looked like a mouth, and he began to sing, "You may think I'm not pretty." Cedric, who was listening to the sorting song right now, wouldn't know. He will create a new legend here again. 21. Come put it on me. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. You are absolutely safe in my hands, because I am a thinking magic hat. After the sorting hat finished singing, the audience burst into applause. After the sorting hat bowed to the 4 dining tables one by one, he quickly became still. Professor McGonagall came forward holding the parchment with the list on it. Anyone whose name I read out should sit on a stool, put on a hat, and be sorted into different schools after listening. Gladstone Parker. Cedric was the first to arrive, but ranked very last. After almost everyone completed the sorting, Cedric finally heard his name. He ran forward and took the sorting hat with both hands. Professor McGonagall's eyes couldn't help but soften after seeing him, and comforted him in a low voice, "Relax, it'll be over soon." "Thank you, Professor." Cedric put on the sorting hat and sat down calmly. Who knows the next second? He felt that there were countless soft tentacles trying to penetrate into his brain, and then they were blocked by his occlumency. Oh, this is a bit troublesome. The sound of the sorting hat sounded. "My child, your heart is too sealed. Can you relax and let me take a look?" "That, you won't tell anyone." Cedric is really afraid of having his past life memories read. "Of course, who do you think I am? I am the consciousness of the 4 deans. You can destroy me, but you absolutely cannot take away any memory or information from me. All right. Even if it says so." Cedric didn't dare to let them all out. Fortunately, Level 8 occlumency is enough for him to control his memory. The memories after coming to this world are slowly released. The Sorting Hat went down very strangely for a minute. In Cedric's ear, he started shouting non-stop. Oh my god, my god. The first thing the Sorting Hat read was the picture of Cedric starting from the age of 5 and rationally trying to destroy the big devil. Brave! The Sorting Hat shouted excitedly, what extraordinary courage this is! Faced with such difficulties and pressure at a young age, he was able to face it bravely without flinching. His courage is enough for him to show his true strength in adversity and dare to challenge himself and break through his limits then. It's Cedric who carefully allocates his daily schedule. And it is constantly modified according to the situation. And of course his memory of learning everything instantly. Wisdom! The Sorting Hat's voice was filled with surprise. No doubt. Cedric possesses extraordinary intelligence. He is able to maintain rational thinking in complex situations, gain deep insight into the nature of problems, and come up with wise solutions. His wisdom is like a bright light. Enough to allow him to find opportunities in difficult moments and maintain a calm and clear mind in the face of any challenges. Then, after Cedric came to Hogwarts, a picture of the promise made to Hagrid and Filch, and the efforts made so far. There was even a declaration of vowing to defend Hogwarts to the death and destroy Voldemort. So touching. The Sorting Hat's tone was a little whimpering. Cedric, the epitome of loyalty. This is a reliable ally who consistently maintains his commitment and trust to friends, family, or fellow students. At the crucial moment, he is always the first to stand up for his friends and never abandons them. His loyalty will earn him respect and trust, making him a worthy pillar of support for everyone, last of the last. The Sorting Hat read the picture of Cedric leading his family at home and guiding Filch at Hogwarts. Extraordinary leadership. The Sorting Hat's voice became arrogant and cold. Cedric, a key player in the team, is able to inspire team members and guide them towards a common goal. He has excellent communication skills. At work, he is good at listening and understanding the needs of his team members while communicating instructions and goals clearly. Cedric, you are full of strong personal charm and infectious energy, which makes people want to follow you and move forward together. Oh my god! This time Cedric heard the harmony of a quartet. Ah Cedric, Cedric! Excellent decision-making and leadership skills, always able to make the most correct choices, courage to take responsibility, courage to face challenges, and always maintain an optimistic and determined attitude. This is Cedric. Cedric blushed at this. What the Sorting Hat said was really nice. If he wasn't under everyone's attention now, he would really want to hear more. But forget it now. He didn't want to attract any further attention from Dumbledore yet. Hurry up and choose a college. Cedric urged in his head. Okay, it's time to make the final choice. According to your qualities, no matter which college is suitable for you, so, which college do you like? Hufflepuff. Cedric answered without hesitation. Hufflepuff, the Sorting Hat shouted. Phew! Cedric breathed a sigh of relief. It probably took me a long time to do this, but fortunately, I didn't break any records. He took off his Sorting Hat and placed it respectfully on the four-legged stool. He stood up and didn't take 2 steps. Cedric stopped where he was in utter embarrassment. No, why don't everyone say anything? 22. What happened? Cedric's eyes first glanced at Hufflepuff's long table. I'm being sorted. At least you have to applaud me to welcome me, right? Seeing no reaction from them, Cedric turned and looked back. Professor McGonagall covered his mouth, his eyes filled with relief. No, just separate hospitals. Why are you crying? Looking up at the teacher's chair above, all the classroom seemed stagnant. Hagrid and Filch, who were standing next to him, both gave him 4 thumbs up. Only Dumbledore's eyes behind the crescent moon were shining with a faint light. This look contained no emotion at all. It's like a cold scanner. Cedric suddenly felt shuddering, as if he had cast a head-soaking spell and then jumped naked into the icy water. No, no. Cedric suddenly thought of a very outrageous possibility. He looked down at the Sorting Hat on the stool, then looked at Professor McGonagall again, and said with a cry, "You all heard what it just said." Professor McGonagall couldn't stand it any longer. She rarely expressed her passionate feelings in front of everyone. She rushed up and hugged Cedric. "Kid, I knew you were the best. Great, your sister. Sorting Hat, you old guy. You talk to other people in your head. Why do you keep talking to me when it's my turn? Ding, create a legendary event. Legendary event, the perfect first grader, also known as, someone else's child. Reward legendary value 2 points. In a daze. In everyone's eyes, Cedric instantly became taller again. Many people couldn't help rubbing their eyes. Cedric's figure is still so tall, it's not a temporary illusion. Then, extremely warm applause broke out. There was someone on the long table of Hufflepuff, who never argued about anything, shouting, "We have Cedric! We have Cedric!" It wasn't until 5 minutes after Cedric sat down. Dumbledore stood up and suppressed the last bit of discussion. The sorting ceremony continues. Professor McGonagall was reminded and quickly completed the sorting ceremony. Next is the welcome dinner. Everyone had a great time eating, and during the break they didn't forget to discuss today's topic, Cedric. As Professor McGonagall's best friend. Pomona Sprout, the headmaster of Hufflepuff, who was away from Hogwarts during the entire holiday because he was researching dragon manure mixture, was also actively asking McGonagall about Cedric's situation. Chat a few words every time. She couldn't help but glance at Cedric, her eyes full of shock and surprise. She knew Professor McGonagall well. Even before I even spoke to Cedric, I already had an extremely favorable impression of him. Throughout the auditorium, the only ones eating quietly were Cedric and Dumbledore. Both of them were thinking seriously while eating. Dumbledore was examining Cedric, who was also thinking about countermeasures. However, Cedric's silence was soon interrupted. "Hello, Cedric, no, classmate, I hope we can get along well in the future." Cedric turned to look. It turned out that a first-year student had the courage and cautiously came to Cedric to clink glasses. "Certainly." Cedric was out of thought. Almost reflexively. After quickly raising his glass and touching it with the visitor, he took the initiative to invite all the new first-year students nearby. "Everyone come together. Hope we all have a happy school year. Hear his greeting." The first-grade Hufflepuffs all stood up and gathered their cups together to form an irregular circle. "Happy school year! Ha 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 ha!" All of a sudden, Hufflepuff's dining table became the happiest place in the entire hall. "Thank you, Cedric." The visitor left with satisfaction. Seeing his classmates leaving in small steps, Cedric's mood also changed. "Forget it, leave him alone. Since you can't hide anymore, let's be honest." Cedric raised his head and met the eyes above again. "Hello, Principal." After he finished speaking, he drank the wine in the glass in one breath. Dumbledore was stunned at first. Then he smiled and took a sip from his glass. Everything seems so beautiful. Next, Cedric also completely let go. "Come on, take a look at these dishes. Peking roast duck, lion head, Buddha jumping over the wall, squirrel mandarin fish, kung pao chicken, boiled cabbage, etc. These are all the dishes I researched, you all have a try. There's also a big dish called hot pot. If I have a chance another day, I'll set up another table in our lounge, no doubt." The recipes for these dishes were all taught by Cedric to the house elves in the kitchen little by little over the past month or so. 10 Hufflepuffs, 9 cooks. Cedric's reputation. With the blessing of more than 10 dishes each, it has once again reached a new peak. Everyone has a keen interest in hot pot. Cedric became the unquestionable centerpiece. Beneath the enchanted ceiling, just under the starlight, the students finished their first dinner back at Hogwarts. After everyone returned to the lounge, he also kept chatting with Cedric until late at night, until he was extremely tired, and then he put him back to rest. Lying on the bed, Cedric immediately changed his plans. Since it is no longer possible to hide, then the plan that had been dormant for a year was also cancelled. From low profile to high profile, he was about to unleash a trick on Dumbledore. When Harry Potter entered school, he met me who was flourishing in school. At that time, who will you place your hope on? With this thought in mind, Cedric set the alarm clock and got up early the next day, ready to start his strong and above-board plan. 23. Early the next morning, Cedric was surrounded by a group of Hufflepuffs and left the common rest area together, planning to have breakfast together. Not even close to the auditorium. A hoarse but energetic voice kept coming, "Selena, be careful not to go that way. The ladder over there will turn to a dead end later. It's still early. You can go to the auditorium to eat first. If you don't know how to get there later, you can come to me and ask." Round the corner. Cedric soon saw Filch, who brushed his coat clean, straightened his back, and hugged Mrs. Norris. At his shout, the first-year students are all walking like flying. As for the senior students, they all looked like they had seen a ghost. They couldn't help but look back at Filch after taking 3 steps. Mr. Merlin. We have only been away for a summer vacation. What happened to Filch? Why did your temperament suddenly change? If you don't rush out from the corner and yell at us, why don't you show the way to the freshmen? Mr. Filch. With a smile on his face, Cedric shouted loudly towards the figure in front of him. Follow in his footsteps. The dozen or so Hufflepuffs behind him also shouted in unison, Mr. Filch. Filch froze. I don't know if there will be any newcomers, but so many people shouted his name with respect at the same time. For Filch, it was definitely the first time for an older girl to get on the sedan chair. Thank you. He put Mrs. Norris on his shoulders and quickly stepped forward to hold Cedric's hand, his eyes full of emotion. If there weren't so many people now. Filch had to give Cedric a cry. This feeling of not being hated by others but being praised by others is really great. You deserve this. Cedric looked at him and smiled, saying nothing. Then he looked back. He greeted his friends around him. This is Mr. Filch. He is responsible for the patrol and security of the castle. He knows every legend about Hogwarts. If you are interested, you can chat with him. If you don't understand anything, you can ask him for advice. Listen to Cedric. Suddenly there was praise all around. Mr. Filch, please take good care of me in the future. Okay, I will definitely trouble Mr. Filch in the future. Hello, my name is Tyne, do you remember me? Cedric checked Tyne's appearance in the crowd. The character is small and weak. His eyes are very smart when looking at people. He seems to have a flexible mind. I just hope that he can use his intelligence in the right place in the future. Well. Filch was so happy that he didn't know what to do. Phase comes from the heart. His wrinkled old face actually showed some kindness at this moment. You go and eat first. The Peking duck from Cedric is very delicious. Try more of it. Let's go. Cedric knew there was no hurry. Filch still has a long way to go before he can truly change everyone's minds. Had breakfast with my friends. Then the official classes at Hogwarts began. All first-year students at Hogwarts must take 7 courses: Transfiguration, Spells, Potions, History of Magic, Defense against the Dark Arts, Herbology, and Astronomy. The first 6 of them are main courses. Astronomy is a compulsory course but not the main subject. Cedric's first class on Monday was 2 potions classes with Ravenclaw. Potions classes were held in the underground classroom. Not only is this place cooler than the main castle building above, it is also filled with glass jars filled with various specimens of animals. It even made the little Hufflepuffs tremble in fear. Do not be afraid. Aware of the tense atmosphere around you. Cedric, who was extremely familiar with this place, immediately started to comfort him. Although Professor Snape looks fierce, he is actually a very knowledgeable professor. He has extremely high attainments in potions and spells. Hear his words. Everyone immediately calmed down. The Hufflepuffs are not afraid anymore, that's because of Cedric's comfort. The Ravenclaws also fell silent. They told Cedric, and Snape, who was so powerful, became curious. I'll tell you a secret by the way. Cedric took everyone to the food basin in the corner to wash their hands. He lowered his voice and said, actually, Professor Snape has always wanted to be a defense against the dark arts teacher, but Principal Dumbledore has always refused. This is because Professor Snape's attainments in potions are unparalleled. Wow! The first-year students around him immediately exclaimed. Hear this. He had been hiding in the shadows, preparing to surprise the students. Snape couldn't hide anymore. How did this kid know? Cedric. Snape shouted softly first. After shocking everyone. Then he walked to the desk and said quietly, next time I hear you talking about the teacher behind his back, I will deduct your points. Professor. Cedric showed a heartless smile, but what I said is true. You are indeed the potion master. Snape didn't know how to reply. But he also has his own methods. I saw him directly opening his roll call book, respond when your name is called, and then find a seat to sit down. Call the names with ease. Relying on the cold temperament and the expression that refuses people thousands of miles away. Snape successfully lowered the temperature in the classroom again. But he soon encountered a new problem. He looked at Cedric, who raised his hands straight and narrowed his eyes with a headache. Cedric, I know you know all these questions, so you don't have to rush to answer them all the time. But... Cedric looked innocent. I am now a student of Hufflepuff, and I also want to add points to my academy. The two looked at each other for a while. Snape suppressed a slight twitch in the corner of his eye and said, Hufflepuff plus 2 points, you can study on your own in the sidelines, don't affect other students. He waved his wand repeatedly. The teacher's corner was cleared, and Cedric's cauldron was placed alone, on the left general's seat next to the podium. Snape usually lectures in front of the podium. This is a plan for myself to be out of sight but out of mind. Okay, teacher. There are 2 potions classes in the morning. Cedric stayed quiet throughout the first period. But during recess, he still found Snape. Professor, I can't just add 2 points to your class in one academic year, right? You still want 2 points per class. Snape smiled coldly. That's too much. Cedric made a bold proposal, how about a 50-cent annual subscription? In Harry Potter's first year, he won the championship with 472 points. 6 main courses. That is to say, you only need to get 78 points in each subject. Of course, other students can also earn points, so it is enough for you to get about 50 points in each main course. There are other elective courses that you can earn points for. Cedric's plan is good. Then, Snape made a bold proposal. 24. Let's play a little game. Snape wasn't that easy to control. He quickly proposed a very difficult challenge for Cedric. When making potions, if the number of Hufflepuffs you get wrong does not exceed 1, I will give you plus 5 points. If you fail, I will deduct 1 point from you. Do you dare? It was supposed to be a break between classes. The Hufflepuffs had all walked out of potions class to take a breather. But after hearing Cedric talking to Snape, everyone gradually returned to the classroom. Hear Snape's offer. Everyone took a deep breath. You must know that in the first class just now, a total of 12 of them failed, which means the success rate is only about half. No more than 1 person may fail. That is almost equivalent to all members being qualified. The quota given was just to take the unexpected into account. If it's a test of Cedric himself, that's okay. After all, even Professor Snape admitted that Cedric knew it during these terms and was willing to spend 2 points to buy him a quiet class. This is enough to explain everything. This time it is to test how he can help everyone improve their performance. They have confidence in Cedric, but they have no confidence in themselves. This is great. Beyond everyone's expectations. Cedric had almost no hesitation and quickly agreed, but I have a supplementary condition. If I successfully improve the potion, then I will be given extra points. He also worked hard for points. It's time for the room of requirement to come in handy, and by the way, the research on drugs to solve squibs has officially begun. Certainly. After Snape agreed, the two quickly reached an agreement. Seeing them reach an agreement, the other Hufflepuffs panicked. Cedric, we have no confidence. That's right. What if points are deducted? I can't do it. I'm shaking when cutting roots. I'll never be able to cut them well. Facing the worried classmates, Cedric stood up directly. He put the wand against his throat, and soon his amplified voice echoed in the underground classroom, "Students, please don't worry. Since this is the bet I agreed to, I will be responsible for all the points. I will be responsible for all the points deducted. Listen, Cedric takes all the responsibility." Many people's worries were put aside, and the crowd gradually became quiet. Secondly, I believe in everyone. We are all the best at Hogwarts. If you can be admitted to Hogwarts, then you must not underestimate your abilities. Cedric walked back and forth in front of the Hufflepuffs, his serious eyes scanning every student who looked at him. Just keep working hard. I believe that everyone can work together to complete this great challenge. Be inspired by him. Everyone looked at each other, with a little joy on their faces. No one wants to prove themselves. No one wants to admit that they just can't do it. No one doesn't want to make a big comeback, then turn around and say to his previous self, "It turns out that's all it is." Gradually some people in the crowd nodded, beginning to identify with Cedric. The eyes of the Ravenclaws on the side were gleaming. In their eyes, Cedric in the crowd seemed to be glowing. Learn well and have the courage to take responsibility. Still tall and handsome. Sure enough, the Sorting Hat was right. There was loud applause that was incompatible with the dark basement. Go for it, Cedric, we've got your back. Yes, we will succeed eventually. It's so beautiful. If you read it 100 times, the meaning will naturally emerge. How did Cedric come up with such philosophical words? Love, love, perfect Cedric. In front of Snape's eyes. Cedric stood radiantly among his classmates, with such an attitude that even he might be confused now. But he spoke again. He also brought this glory to himself. At last. Cedric turned to face Snape. This is the professor's test for me. Reviewing the past will help you learn something new. Read it 100 times and you will see its meaning. The professor hopes that I will not forget the basics, so I also want to use everyone to help me consolidate the basics, so that I can not aim too high and master potions thoroughly. I will complete the challenge well. Thank you, Professor Snape. He looked at Cedric, who was leaning forward slightly, and the eyes that followed his movements and were cast on him. Snape was unusually confused. The fingers behind his back rose and fell in turn, and he squeezed his wand hard. Under everyone's gaze, Snape responded to Cedric's gratitude with an undetectable slight bow. Warm applause sounded again. The coldness in the basement has been diluted a lot, and everyone is very enthusiastic. The second potions lesson continued. Cedric didn't do anything in class. After Snape finished his lecture, he came to the Hufflepuffs and began to answer questions. Seeing Ravenclaw standing still, he also warmly invited him. Soon, almost the entire class stayed, with Cedric at the center, continuing to discuss the contents of the potions class. Snape stood at the door of the classroom and looked back. Looking at Cedric, who looked like the sun, he not only began to recall his school days. What were you doing at that time? By the way, competing with James Potter, they are mortal enemies and are incompatible with each other. He even insulted his beloved, causing regrets in his life. No one taught me at that time. What is right and what is wrong? Snape felt sour in his heart. At that time, it would be great if I could meet Cedric. 25. Lunchtime, auditorium. When Cedric showed up with the first-year Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs, talking and laughing, instantly became the most dazzling group in the entire auditorium. Let's talk after dinner. Cedric said goodbye to the Ravenclaws first. Then he took the Hufflepuffs and sat down at the dining table. A few seconds later, the hot pot set menu appeared on the table, attracting many Ravenclaws to dine with them. The scene was very lively. This kid is still. Fred looked unhappy. He's really good at confusing people. George said with a sad look on his face. Geminis are very smart. This scene made them realize that it would be very difficult to prank Cedric. After all, it's hard to escape everyone's eyes. But they won't give up. Facing difficulties has always been their characteristic. He's too high profile. Another Weasley sitting with them spoke. He took care of the unique red hair of the Weasley family meticulously, and showed obvious jealousy towards the popular Cedric. If I were a prefect, I wouldn't show off like him. He is none other than Percy Ignatius Weasley. Damn! Fred looked at Percy with shock on his face. My lord, Merlin, you actually agree with our views. George copied Fred's expression 1-to-1. This is simply too scary. Fred said with a serious face, can I trouble you to like Cedric too? Otherwise we will doubt ourselves and think that our brain circuits have become like yours. This is terrible. George nodded repeatedly. He even put his arms around himself to make a frightened gesture. Snort. Percy glared at his two naughty brothers very unhurriedly. Anyway, Mom asked me to watch you. If you do anything that violates school rules, I will definitely tell Mom. Abba, Abba, Abba. Fred looked at George resentfully. Abba, Ababa, Abba. George spread his hands with helplessness on his face. Lunch ended quickly. After nap, there is herbal medicine class. This time the Hufflepuffs were in class with the Gryffindors. Compared to the loose Gryffindors, they were in 2s and 3s. The Hufflepuffs who came with Cedric were neatly organized as if they were a real group. But the aggressive Gryffindors are not to be feared. On the contrary, I really like this tense and exciting scene. Everyone stand up. Fred sang. Don't be underestimated by others. George said. Under the leadership of the Geminis, the Gryffindors stood together, watching the Hufflepuffs approaching eager to try. Facing the sharp-edged Gryffindors, Cedric pretended not to notice, and took the Hufflepuffs with him to occupy the other side of the classroom. The sword he swung failed. Both Weasley twins felt a little disappointed. But there was no chance at this time, because Professor Pomona Sprout had already walked out with a smile. She is a short witch with flowing grey hair. Her thick patched hat and mud-covered body all proved her love for flowers and plants. Even in Hufflepuff's lounge, there are both ice and fire terrains carefully arranged by her, and many special plants are planted on them. This is one of the reasons why Hufflepuffs are generally good at herbology. Overall, she is a very optimistic and compassionate professor. Her eyes fell directly on Cedric. McGonagall told me about your excellence, so you should give it a try first. In fact, Professor McGonagall not only mentioned it, but also with the Sorting Hat's praise, Sprout had long wanted to take a test on Cedric. Wow! The Weasley twins led the heckling. The Gryffindors all smiled as if they were watching a show. As a student, what I fear the most is the teacher's questions, and this is the first class at school. I didn't teach anything and started asking questions. It's even more difficult. Who is a good person who reads all the textbooks before school starts? Use yourself to save others. The Weasley twins were already expecting that Cedric would look deflated later. Facing the roar of laughter from the Gryffindors, even the good-tempered Hufflepuffs all showed dissatisfaction. Professor Sprout also realized that his question was difficult, so he comforted him, "It doesn't matter. I won't deduct points if you get the answer wrong. I'll give you extra points if you get the answer right." "Thank you for your compliment, I'm ready," Cedric responded calmly. "Well." Professor Sprout first asked a simple question, "How many types of herbs are there?" 3 types, spontaneous species, cultivated species, and animal species. "So how many categories are they divided into?" "The 6 major categories are defense, treatment, health, poison, synthesis, and daily life." "Okay, so how many divisions will it be divided into in the end?" 4, Water Health Division, Earth Health Division, Mixed Health Division, and Yao Health Division. "Exactly right, 1 point for Hufflepuff." Professor Sprout took the lead in applauding Cedric, and then directly made the question more difficult. Her habit from the Devil's Net. He asked about the ancient method of harvesting mandrake, and then asked about where the bulba tubers grow. Nearly 10 minutes of content. Under Cedric's smooth answer, the Weasley twins' faces grew paler. "Very perfect." Professor Sprout smiled broadly and waved his hand, "Hufflepuff plus 5 points." Boom! Applause filled the sky. The Hufflepuffs, holding their breath, almost overturned the entire greenhouse with applause. "Congratulations on passing Professor Sprout's test and gaining 1000 experience points." Professor Sprout waited patiently for the applause to subside. Then he asked Cedric, "Son, have you memorized all the herbal medicine in the 1st grade?" "Yes, but I haven't tried it in practice yet, and there is still a lot to learn." "Memorized it?" The Weasley twins looked at each other. "It's too much to watch, you guy actually memorized it all?" No matter how shocked they were, Cedric's modesty was deeply recognized by Professor Sprout. "Don't worry, kid, I will teach you all well." Professor Sprout started today's class with a smile. The system prompt sounded again in Cedric's ears, "Ding, moved Sprout is successful. You get bonus talent points +1, Sprout character template card." Because of Cedric's leaping performance, the Weasley twins were hit hard in this session. The other Gryffindors, after discovering that Cedric was not aggressive, stopped tit-for-tat against the Hufflepuffs. Only the Weasley twins still miss Cedric. "Wait until the course is over. You win this time." Fred's face was full of unwillingness. "But we won't lose again next time." George gritted his teeth. "As long as it's a fair fight." Cedric's expression remained unchanged. He even raised his voice and challenged all the Gryffindors, "If you want to compete with me, you can come to me directly. As long as it is a reasonable and healthy competition, I can have an upright contest with you at any time." "An upright contest?" Hearing these exciting words, many Gryffindors' eyes lit up. They admired Cedric's courage to challenge everyone. Many Gryffindors immediately said that they would prepare for this, and they all swore that all future contests would be upright. It is this agreement. This laid the foundation for Cedric to become the dual champion. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.